Hello, everybody, and welcome to Watchalong Week at the tip of the Ice-Burgh. This is the second of two Watchalongs that we're doing this week. This time, the Penguins take on the Anaheim Ducks, looking to end their current six-game losing streak. So shout out to everybody that's joining us live here at the tip of the Ice-Burgh. We'll answer all of your questions, try to have some fun discussions, and try to watch a Pittsburgh Penguins victory tonight over those Anaheim Ducks. If you're joining us in the live chat right now, let us know, who do you think will score the first goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight? Pens fan 55 says, well, thinking nobody will score. The Anaheim Ducks are a pretty good defensive team. Lucas Dostal, who we'll talk about in a few minutes, is a very good goaltender this year. So maybe you're right. And if you are, we'll give you some shout out and some praise at the end of the show. K. Wright says, giving it to OC. Drew O'Connor already has a handful of goals this season. Maybe he's the one that opens the scoring for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. Sarah jumps in and says she could agree with OC potentially scoring, but also says maybe it's Evgeni Malkin who scores first tonight. We're about to get into the lineup, but I think it goes to Sir Sidney Crosby. It's about time that he gets off the schneid when it comes to goal scoring. He got 3 assists in Tuesday night's game. I think tonight is the night that he gets back on the score sheet as a goal scorer. Look at this lineup that the Pittsburgh Penguins are running out there tonight. Another couple of changes that I'd like to get into. First and foremost, they're going with that top line, bottom 9 figuration for another game. It didn't work out exactly the way that you would hope, but it worked out kind of how you would expect. The top line looked very good for the Pittsburgh Penguins in that game, at least in the offensive end of the ice. Sidney Crosby, like I mentioned, picks up 3 assists. That line has 2 goals, allows 0, but the bottom 9 combined for 4 goals allowed and contribute 0. So let's see if this new configuration leads to victory tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So the top line is the same as on Tuesday night: Evgeni Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and Rickard Rakell. Second line is changed a little bit. Nola Chari's bumped off that unit. Valtteri Puustinen, coming off a game in which he scored his first goal of the season, will get an opportunity on a second line with Lars Eller and Drew O'Connor. Michael Bunting, Cody Glass, and Nola Chari will be your third line tonight. And then Kevin Hayes and Anthony Beauvillier are going to be on either side of the debuting Blake Lizotte. Missed the first 11 games of the season after suffering a concussion during Kraft Hockeyville. He was hit in the head with a puck while on the bench. He makes his Penguins debut tonight. I'm very excited to see what Lizotte has to offer. The defense remains unchanged from Tuesday. Grizzlick Letang is your top pairing. Marcus Pettersson and Erik Karlsson will be your number 2 pairing, and Ryan Graves and Jack St. Ivany bring up the rear as the third pairing on the defensive side of the ice. And Alex Nedeljkovic is in net for the Penguins, as Joel Blomqvist had the start on Tuesday. They're going to go back to Ned tonight against those Anaheim Ducks. The one thing I want to mention before we get into Blake Lizotte, I like that second line right there. Drew O'Connor, Lars Eller, Valtteri Puustinen. Lars Eller, for a majority of this season, has been one of the more consistent players for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The one thing that's been inconsistent about his game is who he's playing with, right? He's been bounced around as now a third-line center, a second-line center. He's had Anthony Beauvillier. He's had Drew O'Connor. He's had Jesse Puljujärvi, who eats a healthy scratch here. He's had a lot of guys on his line. I'm excited to see what he can do with O'Connor and Puustinen. I think the one thing that you saw on Tuesday is that bottom 9, including the second line, needs to provide a little bit more of a spark in the offensive zone. And I think this is a line that gives you a little bit more of that, allowing Puustinen to play with a guy like Drew O'Connor, to play with a guy who has been as offensive as Lars Eller has been. I think that's going to create a little bit more in the offensive zone for the second line. And then Blake Lizotte, I'm excited about this guy. Coming into this season, he was one of the guys that we were saying was probably one of the more exciting offseason acquisitions from Kyle Dubas in a rather unexciting offseason, right? A lot of one-year contracts, a lot of kind of picking it up off the garbage bin, show me contracts. Blake Lizotte's a guy that they brought in on a multi-year contract to be a spark plug in the bottom 6. And we always had the comparisons whenever we talked to folks over in LA. You know what you guys had in Brandon Tanev? They said, you're going to get similar feels and vibes from Blake Lizotte. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do. Maybe be a spark plug on that fourth line with Kevin Hayes and Anthony Beauvillier. A lot of foot speed with Beauvillier, so maybe you have 2 spark plugs and somebody to settle things down with the puck in Kevin Hayes. So it should be an interesting matchup tonight. Penguins, against the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks come into this one 4-4-1, but 1-2 on their current road trip. Like I mentioned off the top of the show here, they're very good defensively. So with that matched with the Penguins being a pretty good offensive team, that's a matchup to watch. On the other side of things, fortunately for the Penguins, the Ducks have not been pretty good offensively, whereas they are one of the worst defensive teams. So it should be a pretty even matchup in this one. Penguins going up against Lukas Dostal in net for the Anaheim Ducks. He is 4-2-1 on the season, a 2.00 goals against average, and a 943 save percentage. A hot start for the Anaheim Ducks netminder, and in net for the Penguins, a guy that we're going to have to talk a little bit about, depending upon how this game goes and how his night progresses. Alex Nedeljkovic had a good season last year, so much so that the Penguins brought him back on a multi-year contract over $2 million. He's 0-2-1 this season, has a 3.94 goals against average, and an 874 save percentage. Doesn't look good on paper. You can make the excuse, you can make the argument that, hey, the defense has been horrid in front of him, and you're not wrong. The defense has been awful in all 11 games. But when all things considered, he has a lower high-danger save percentage than Tristan Jarry this year. Both goaltenders have allowed 12 goals in 3 games, and it's looked better for Alex Nedeljkovic than it did for Tristan Jarry, a much less poor goals given up, but the numbers don't lie, and he is not having a red-hot start to the season by any means. He's had a couple of very good periods, namely in the first period. He's been very sharp to start games, and it seems like he just gets worn down by the time the Penguins just continue to allow shot and chance and chance and chance. So we'll have to see if they're able to kind of slow things down against an Anaheim team that's desperately searching for offense, and we'll have to see if that helps him bounce back and potentially get his first win of the 2024-25 season. Shout out again to everybody that's jumping in here. We asked at the top of the show, and we have it as our pinned comment on our live stream right now. Who do you think will score the first goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight? We had somebody say nobody. We had a couple Drew O'Connors. We had a Malkin. I'm saying it's Sidney Crosby. Fuzzy Hobbit says Raquel is going to stay hot. He's going to score first. I like that one. 6 goals on the season going up against his former team. I think that's a good one there. Iconic Hair says, Puljujarvi getting scratched. Can we scratch Sullivan instead? I know that's a large conversation to be had, and I'm sure we'll have that conversation on a couple of occasions tonight. But as Steve Mears used to say, sticks are down, puck is down, and the game is underway at PPG Paints Arena. The one thing that immediately I need to mention, and I don't know if I was going to save this. I knew I was going to talk about this at some point. I know it's Halloween. Ducks come in with those flashy new orange uniforms. Those are now one of the best uniforms in all of hockey. They went from worst to first really quickly because I thought that it was certainly way overdue for them to get a new jersey, and seeing them now in these ones, I think they hit it out of the park. What do you guys think of the Anaheim Ducks new jerseys? Because I think it's just chef's kiss. Couldn't have done any better if they tried. I'm seeing some Halloween costumes in the stands already. Saw the Hanson brothers on the front row. I love that, being from Johnstown, where Slapshot was filmed. So that's always gonna get some extra brownie points for me as well. Second line's gonna be out there early. First line didn't really do any much in their first shift, but again, it's the first shift of the game. Now let's see what this second line is gonna do. I know I talked about them really off the hop here. O'Connor's gonna take it in the zone. He's gonna get doubled there by Leo Karlsson. That's a name to watch tonight. He's a really stellar young player for the Anaheim Ducks, but a good job of some forechecking here, forcing a couple turnovers from the second line. They got a little bit of jump to them. So that's exactly what you want to see. The bottom 9, since it's top line bottom 9 for the second consecutive game, the bottom 9 did not create nearly enough in that game on Tuesday night against Fleury and the Minnesota Wild. Tanger OVO says, is it bad that I want to see what Sebastian Aho has to offer? Hopefully this losing streak ends. Yeah, I hope the losing streak ends as well. I mean, they're 3-7-1 on the season as the first line gets back out there again. Crosby feeds it over to Erik Karlsson. I don't know if that hit the post or if that was just saved by Lukas Dostal, but a nice opportunity there from Crosby to Karlsson, and it just stays out. Penn's getting a really long extended zone shift right here. They flipped the lines over, started with the second line, and now they go back to that first line. Got to like what you're seeing. A nice opportunity out in front there for, once again, Erik Karlsson, who pinched and now is standing behind the net for some reason. Puck comes out to Raquel. He fires it in, and Dostal makes the save on that one. So 2 very good shifts for the Pittsburgh Penguins right there on their second and third shifts of the game. Started off by a stellar shift by the second line, keeping that puck in, creating a couple opportunities, and then the big guns came out, and they looked really good to start this one. Tanger says, I want to see what Sebastian Aho has to bring. Unfortunately, shout out to Tony Andrikaitis, who covers the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, informed us earlier yesterday that he is injured. So he is currently unavailable for Wilkes-Barre. So you'd have to imagine that means he is definitely unavailable for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Here comes that third line with Noel Acciari, who has been just kind of tossed around. He's now been on every line but the first line at some point this season. We're only 12 games into this. Well, 11 point whatever 3 minutes of 60 minutes is. But that third line is out there for their first shift of the game. Have yet to see Blake Lizotte step on the ice for his first shift. And there might be an odd man rush here as Michael Bunting comes up in the zone. He just gets it on net, and that's snuffed out by Lucas Dostal. Another shot from the point, little bit of traffic in front. Liking what I'm seeing here from the Pittsburgh Penguins. The vibe check, TM from Hunter Hodes and Jesse Marshall. The vibe check is looking good so far for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Third line got a couple of shots on goal there, making sure they keep the puck in that offensive zone. So maybe this is when we get a little bit of Blake Lizotte action, or they'll just put out the first line again because it's an offensive zone faceoff. Earthquake Jake says, I'd much rather see Pettersson with Letang, but that's just me. And this is Blake Lizotte's first shift. So let's see if he wins his first faceoff here against Trevor Zegras. He does not. Zegras gets the faceoff win, and we'll see if the Ducks are able to get it out. They do. Doesn't look good when they're getting it out, but they get it out the zone nonetheless. Pens are able to turn it over in the neutral zone, come right back in, and here comes that fourth line. Kris Letang takes the puck, goes down, shooting it in front. An opportunity there for Kevin Hayes, who has just made himself a home in the front of the net this season. 3 goals already on the season for Kevin Hayes. Much better than anybody could have expected. And there's the first shot on goal for the Anaheim Ducks, and that is gloved down. No rebound from Alex Nedeljkovic. This is the easiest start that Nedeljkovic has had all season long. Typically by this point in the game, and I'm not going to say we're deep into the game. We are literally only 3 minutes and 38 seconds of the game, but typically during his starts, he had already faced 4 or 5 shots by now. That's the first shot on goal, and it was a harmless shot on a 1-on-2 break for the Anaheim Ducks. So you like the start from the Pittsburgh Penguins? Certainly. But as far as Pettersson with Letang, yeah, I would prefer to have Pettersson with Letang if you had any other options to go with Erik Karlsson than Matt Grzelcyk, because they tried that pairing out, and it did not look good. It did not look good at all, and that's why that experiment lasted all of, I believe, 2 games before they went back to what they had here. But, if all things are considered perfect, yeah, you would hope to have Marcus Pettersson up with Kris Letang, but right now, he's the only guy that you can realistically put with Erik Karlsson and expect any defense to be played whatsoever for that second defense pairing. Earthquake Jake also says Rickard Rakell is going to score first. I've seen that a couple of different times. Earthquake Jake wants to also know who is the Penguins' top hitter this season. I believe it's usually Noel Acciari. I'll look that up right now, but Noel Acciari is definitely the leader when it comes to forwards. There's a nice save that kind of just slowly was coming in on Alex Nedeljkovic. Typing with one hand is not my strong suit, I'll tell you that much. Top hitter this season. See, Earthquake Jake's putting me to task early in this one. Let's see. Top hits. It is Noel Acciari. Noel Acciari has 32 hits on the season, which is 9 more than the second most. And the second most is Jack St. Ivany with 23. Kris Letang takes bronze in that one. Here's a nice break. Evgeni Malkin not able to handle the puck, but he still gets it over to Rickard Rakell, whose shot was redirected by Dostal. Crosby just couldn't get his stick untied. Otherwise, he had a wide open net, just wasn't able to get to the puck. And that one comes into the Penguins' defensive zone. That's going to be a penalty on the Ducks. And the Penguins, just about 4:59 into this one, will get the first power play of the game. And this is another area where the Penguins can make some hay tonight. Because you look at the Anaheim Ducks and what they have as far as special teams, the Penguins are in a much better position. The Penguins have the 7th best penalty kill in the NHL, which They haven't gone out there yet. Let's hope they don't go out there a lot because they were put to task on Tuesday with 6 opportunities against the Minnesota Wild. But they also have the number 12 ranked power play through the Pittsburgh Penguins. Meanwhile, the Anaheim Ducks have the 22nd ranked penalty kill. So if they're going to make some strides here, and if they're going to build a lead and hopefully then keep the lead, but one thing at a time, if they're going to build the lead, this is a great opportunity to do so, a great mismatch in order to do so. Penguins, again, now, I got that stat before Sportsnet Pittsburgh, but 11th ranked power play versus the 22nd ranked penalty kill. Pens starting out, though, with their second unit. The top line has been out there a whole heck of a lot. And in fact, it was Evgeni Malkin who just drew that penalty. So they're going to start with the second unit. Kevin Hayes trying to dig the puck away from a penalty killer for the Ducks. The puck comes out to Grzelcyk. He almost turns it over, and then the puck is still just bouncing around the offensive zone. Nobody can handle it. Nobody can get it under control. Kevin Hayes, ever the steady hand, is able to do it and gets it back to Matt Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk goes over to Hayes. Hayes is weighing his options. A couple of Penguins down low. They try to go to Michael Bunting, who tries to make the quick pass to Puustinen. He can't connect. Hayes is able to get it back up at the point. It goes over to the left dot. That's Lars Eller, who sends it back to Grzelcyk, who sends it over to Lars Eller once again. He tried a cross-ice pass to Kevin Hayes, who just couldn't get it, but a diving effort keeps it in the zone and keeps it in Penguins' possession. Kevin Hayes, once again, weighing his options, goes over to Michael Bunting, who puts a nothing shot from a nothing angle on Lucas Dostal. He shoulders it away, and that is going to allow the Ducks penalty kill to carry it out of harm's way. Pens and the Ducks are both changing, so the Ducks are going to take their time if nobody's forcing the issue. Cam Fowler, who is a wily veteran on a very young Anaheim Ducks team, going to send things out, and Crosby gets it back into the zone quickly. 34 seconds remain on this opening power play. Letang takes it from the point. He has some space, walks in, shoots, and a nice save by Dostal. Dostal was moving left, and the puck came in at the right, makes a nice blocker save on Kris Letang. Letang now sets it up for Evgeni Malkin, who's at the point. He sends it over to Erik Karlsson. Karlsson down to Raquel. Raquel tries a quick pass over to Crosby. Once again, his stick is just tied up like it was previously. Karlsson takes it, weighs his options, goes over to Crosby. Crosby on the left half wall. Sends it back to Karlsson at the point. Karlsson finds Malkin, who has some space. His shot is on, and that is gloved down by Lucas Dostal. We talked about Dostal coming into this one, said he is one of the better goaltenders in the National Hockey League to start this season, a .940+ save percentage, and he's stopped all 9 shots and now just killed the Penguins' first power play of this one. No saves may be better than that save he made on Kris Letang. They just showed it again. Dostal had no idea where that puck was. Letang did a good job of waiting that out, waiting till Dostal tried to peek around the left side and shot it to the right, but he was just able to get his blocker right on that shot. Otherwise, it would have been a 1-0 lead for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pens fan 55 says, show the game. I can't do that legally. So if you're looking for the game stream, this is not going to be the one that you're going to be able to find. Earthquake Jake says, I think Chris Kunitz was my favorite power forward for the Penguins. And boy, he could hit and was always hitting guys. Yeah, that was one thing that people either loved or hated Chris Kunitz for some reason. If you loved him, a lot of the reason that you loved him was, one, because he could actually put away Sidney Crosby passes. And for two, it was because he was a physical guy. I mean, his checking highlight reel matches his goal highlight reel tenfold over. And his goal highlight reel includes a Game 7 double overtime winner in the Eastern Conference Finals. Cooney was certainly a fan favorite for a lot. He was disliked for a lot of people as well. Certainly Canadians in 2014 until he helped them to a gold medal there. But Chris Kunitz was one of the better power forwards of the Crosby era. If you're looking Penguins all time, though, hard to go away from Kevin Stevens, because Kevin Stevens was a beast in the 90s, 100%. Shout out to Chad Billett, or Belay, either way, however you pronounce it, says, can't watch the game, so this is the next best thing. Appreciate that. Glad that you can join us here. Pens fan 55 says, where can I watch it? Well, I mean, if you have ESPN Plus and you're not in the Pittsburgh market, you can watch it. If you're in the Pittsburgh market, I'm sure you can check it out on SNP 360, I think is what it's called. That's new this year. Or, realistically, as Chad said, you can always hang out here. It's the next best thing. We'll have some competition or conversations about the Penguins. Like I said, ask all your questions if you want. We're going to talk a little bit about, wow, those are great costumes from Sidney Crosby that they're showing right now on the broadcast. Love the Love the vampire one, but definitely know it was cold up in Nova Scotia there because he is wearing a massive puffer jacket that does not go with his costume at all. But overall, the Penguins right now, I would say one of the better starts that they've had so far this season. Outshooting the Anaheim Ducks 10-2, just about 7 minutes into this one, as they throw their third line out there. Michael Bunting has looked half decent in this one. The one thing that it looks like they're really trying to get home with Michael Bunting is shoot everything anytime you have a chance. He's been really wiring it on from every angle in this one so far. So maybe that's something that they're trying to get him to do to get on the scoreboard this year, because he's a guy that they're counting on to be a big-time scorer. There's a nice opportunity in front, and that's Michael Bunting once again. He shuffled it backhand, forehand, but that one just goes wide. I would think that Lucas Dostal got a piece of that. Erik Karlsson looking backdoor for Noel Acciari, who's been a little bit more of an offensive force this year. He does not get it on his stick, and the Ducks are able to bring it out. Still only 2 shots on goal for the Anaheim Ducks. A good job by the Penguins. I mean, they're playing that defense that Mike Sullivan likes to say. The best defense is just not having it in your own zone. It looks like a Penguin is down on the ice. Is there going to be a call here? Maybe Michael Bunting. Yeah, he is slow to get up. He's taking his time getting over to the bench, and he is doubled over in pain. So that's not a good sign if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Michael Bunting heading over to the bench. No call on the play as Nedeljkovic remains in net. The Penguins go out there with their first line. Evgeni Malkin, who has had his patented gallop the last 2 games, sends it over to Raquel. Raquel trying to go backdoor to Sidney Crosby, not able to connect on that one. They seem like they're just a few millimeters off in all of this. Now there's an Anaheim Duck on the ice. He's taken a while to get up, and I don't see any hands currently up. So no penalty call on that one. They're letting the boys play in this one as the Penguins try to take it up the ice. Evgeni Malkin turns it over at center ice. But fortunately for them, the puck goes right to Letang. As I say that, Letang turns the puck over, and here comes, looks like Frank Vetrano, potentially. Sends it up to the defenseman. They go D to D, and here come the Anaheim Ducks for their first sustained ozone pressure of the evening. That lasted all of 2 seconds as Crosby clears it out. It goes into the bench, and a stoppage of play. Let's go over to Realm of Eldoria, who says, love the Pens, was even going to buy a ticket to see this game, but the team has not been looking great. What do you think? I mean, the team has been looking really bad. I believe Bob Grove on Twitter posted, if the Penguins lose in regulation tonight and the San Jose Sharks beat the Chicago Blackhawks, the Penguins will be in 32nd place out of 32 teams in the NHL. And they've looked every bit of the 32nd team in the NHL this season. I mean, 3-7-1. Losers of 6 straight games, and their only point in those 6 straight is a game in Calgary in which they had a lead and they just choked it in the last minute of play and then lost it in a shootout. So no, they have not performed well. Looks like a lot of people decided not to go to this game tonight. A lot of empty seats there. Part of that's probably the fact that it's Halloween night. Families aren't going to take their kids to the game. Instead, they're going to take them trick-or-treating. And also the fact that it's a Thursday night and they've lost 6 games in a row. So that makes it a tough one. Jackson McKnight wants to know, when is Brian Rust coming back? Obviously, Rusty went down at the end of that Vancouver Canucks game on Sunday with a lower body injury. He was placed on injured reserve on Tuesday, which means he has to be out for at the very least a week. As of right now, his status is week to week with that lower body injury. It looked really bad. So I would imagine it's more 2 weeks at minimum than under that. If they get him back in less than 2 weeks, I think that'd be a little bit of a surprise. And I think that would be great for the Penguins because they need as many goal scorers as they can get right now. Honestly, they need as many good players as they can get right now. And Brian Rust, when healthy, is very good. And he was very good this season as well, especially in the offensive zone, had 3 goals. And I believe it was just, he missed the first 6 or 7 games, something like that. So definitely. But the Penguins, they're struggling. They're going to need Brian Rust to be healthy once he comes back and stay healthy the rest of the season. Jackson also throws in another question here as play resumes. Here comes that 4th line again. Anthony Beauvillier sends it into the trapper of Lucas Dostal. That's the one thing they've tried to do. They've tried to pepper him early and just kind of, make Lucas Dostal feel what all the Penguins goaltenders have felt all season, which is just an immense amount of shots. I mean, they're the ones that are on pace for 60 shots on goal tonight. A nice change of pace for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But as far as how do I think Malkin and Crosby look on the same line, they look good. They're certainly creating a lot more chances than they did separately, but they're also allowing as many chances as they're creating. Not tonight so far, but certainly on Tuesday against the Wild, they were giving up just as many scoring chances as they were allowing, as they were creating, I should say. And that's obviously not what you want. But at the end of the day, Crosby was allowing copious amounts of scoring chances without Malkin. The only difference was he wasn't really creating as much. Now he's creating and allowing. So I guess it's better, not by much, but it's better nonetheless. Earthquake Jake says, I will be in the arena when the Sharks come on the 16th. LOL. I'm from Kansas City. Well, I hate to say it, but I'm glad you don't have a professional hockey team because it was supposed to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. So they stayed in Pittsburgh. Maybe one day Kansas City gets one, but I'm glad you're going to be in town. I'm glad you're going to head on out to Pittsburgh Penguins San Jose Sharks game. That might be a battle for last place. It might be a battle for last place, especially because both those teams right now going into November are battling it out for last place. So maybe they'll win that one. So hopefully they do, and I'm hoping you have a good time, Jake. Pens trying to set up in the O-zone, and once again, they're controlling the pace of play. They're going to need to get one past Dostal because it's starting to feel like one of those games where they're going to pepper Dostal, they're going to control the entire first, and then one chance is going to come back the other way, and it's going to end up haunting them, and they're going to end up trailing, and it's going to deflate the entire team. But as of right now, Dostal is looking very, very sturdy in net for the Anaheim Ducks. He snipes that one, or grabs that one from Matt Grzelcyk, who shot it at the point, and we're going to go to commercial break on their television thing. We're not going to go to commercial break in the middle of the period here unless we get to the third period and it's like it was last time where I was running out of breath. But as of right now, just under 9 minutes to go in that first period of play. Penguins are controlling and dominating the pace of play here, but it's still 0-0. Lukas Dostal has looked very, very good. Chrissy jumps in the comment section here and says, I'm finding it a bit tough to sync up the stream with the game. Could you maybe share where the game clock is at for you? Right now, it is in the middle of the, this is funny, it's in the middle of commercial right now with 8:59 to go. But that probably doesn't help you. I'll let you know when they drop the puck, Chrissy. That way you know, hey, this is where I'm at. So if you get ahead, if you're ahead of me and they're dropping the puck and I haven't said it yet, just hit pause for a second, unless you want to actually watch the game stream. If you want to watch the actual game stream live, that I understand. If I'm a little behind, I'm a little behind. But typically, I'm only about 2 or 3 seconds behind when I do these streams. But I'll let you know. I mentioned early in the game that I really like these uniforms. And, let me know your opinions on these Anaheim Ducks uniforms. But I will say, if I had to rank the top 5 uniforms now that Anaheim has switched this, in no particular order, but these are the top 5. Anaheim, Ottawa's, I really like. Seattle's, I loved Seattle's just immediately once they were able to announce them. The LA Kings New Jerseys, I think, are gorgeous. I think they should have had those all along. And something about the Detroit Red Wings. I like a classic jersey, and I know it's kind of a no-no. Red Wings, Penguins, rivals from 2008, from 2009. But something about those Detroit Red Wings jerseys, they speak to me a little bit. So those are my top 5. I would put the Penguins in the top 10. Worst jersey, and I might get into this a little bit later, depending on where we're at. Worst jersey is the Caps. They need a new one. All right, they're back from commercial break, so Chrissy, be ready. They're getting ready, and come on. They dropped the puck just now. So that's where we're at. Evgeni Malkin gets a nice opportunity. He shoots it and it goes wide. So that's where we're at, Chrissy. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you wanting to be nice and synced up. But again, I think if anything, we're a couple seconds behind. So you'll get my reaction. You might already know what happened. But again, it differs, but it's usually only about 1 or 2 seconds. Nice shot on goal there. Looks like it was blockered away by Nedeljkovic. If not, it just kind of missed the net by Leo Karlsson, who winds it up. A nice pass out there. Good opportunity. It's saved by Nedeljkovic, but gets behind him. A wide open net for Karlsson. He's not able to put it into the back of the net. Nedeljkovic scrambling, a wide open shot, and that doesn't go in either. I don't know how that stayed out, but there was a nice little flurry for the Anaheim Ducks for their best handful of opportunities of the game. How did that stay out? It looked like it was behind Nedeljkovic 2 or 3 times. He was scrambling around trying to find his bearings, and instead, the Anaheim Ducks, I think they just bailed him out and missed a couple times. Troy Terry to start. His shot was off the stick, it looks like, instead of the blocker. Iconicare says, on my setup, you're about 14 seconds ahead. Don't ask. I won't. Don't ask, don't tell. That's a nice policy you got there. I'll adhere to it, Iconicare. Penguins, they do keep it out. 2 shots on goal on Anaheim. That matches their entire game total to this point. So now 4 shots, 4 saves for Alex Nedeljkovic, and they withstand that pressure. This is a player that I'm going to keep an eye on tonight. He always has good performances and seems to find the red light when he plays the Penguins. That's Alexander Killorn. I don't know why I called him Alexander. Alex Killorn was always kind of hurting him whenever he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I believe he scored a goal or 2 last year whenever these 2 teams met the couple of times. So that's a guy I'm keeping my eye on for tonight for the Anaheim Ducks, is a guy that could sneakily, light the lamp outside of their obvious names of Troy Terry, who's leading them in scoring, Leo Karlsson, who's a young stud, Mason McTavish, who scored a heartbreaker against the Penguins on this ice last year with about a minute to go, or I think it was under a minute. I think it was like 13 seconds to go when Mason McTavish scored. And obviously you can throw in there Trevor Zegras as well. That was Brian Dumoulin who had a wide open net, and it hit 2 things going in. So that is the most unlucky I think I've seen a player in a long time. Dumoulin has a wide open net. He shoots it. It hits a goalie stick that is just floating randomly through the zone. And then it hits the post and just trickles harmlessly out of the crease. So Brian Dumoulin in his return to Pittsburgh almost scores a goal and does, well, I think we'll just call it the thing. That's the thing. Former Penguins scoring against the Penguins. That's the thing. It just happens all the time. So Dumoulin almost does that to open up the scoring in this one. Fortunately for the Penguins, they get a good bounce, something that hasn't happened all too often this season to start. Speaking of Dumoulin, there's a nice little video package for him. You always forget that he scored a goal in a cup-clinching game back in 2016. That's going to be a great Pittsburgh Penguins trivia question someday. That's a nice shot on goal off the faceoff. And it seems like the Anaheim Ducks, they're starting to get their pushback. This is a couple of shifts in a row that the Ducks have started to kind of control the pace of play here. Penguins need to get the puck out of the zone and need to start pushing back the way they did in the first 10, 12 minutes of this one before really that really good opportunity that they had there where it was a big scramble in front. And this is kind of what we've seen for the Penguins, though. I mean, fortunately, that puck didn't go in, but a lot of the time this year, they give up one chance, they give up one goal, and all of a sudden it seems like their sticks tighten up a little bit, their passes are a little less crisp, they're turning the puck over more, they're failing to get the puck out of the zone like they just did. Actually, they do end up getting it out. And here's a 3-on-2 if they hurry. Letang is up there. That shot's off the side of the net. A lot of people in the stands thought that it was Drew O'Connor's goal. That would have made a couple people happy in this chat who called that earlier. If you're just joining us, asked at the top of the show, and since it hasn't happened yet, I'll ask you, who do you think will score the Pittsburgh Penguins' first goal tonight? 5:59 remaining in the first period. It is scoreless, 0-0. The Ducks have pushed back a little bit, and that's a loss. That's an L for Sportsnet Pittsburgh there. I love the guys at Sportsnet Pittsburgh, the guys and gals at Sportsnet Pittsburgh. But on the graphic there, they have the old Anaheim Ducks logo. Come on now. That logo is old news. It's gone. The only time I want to see it is if I'm rewatching Stanley Cup Finals games from the mid-2000s. That's the only time I want to see it, right? That's the Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, still Teemu Solani years. That's when I want to see it. I don't want to see it right now. Give me the new one, the fresh one, the Mighty Ducks logo. That one's better. So rare L for Sportsnet Pittsburgh there. That's what I'll say. But like I mentioned, who do you think will score the first Pittsburgh Penguins goal of the evening? Earthquake Jake says, our offense is starting to flutter. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. Starting to get a little bit more opportunities, a little bit more consistent, at least in this game. Again, you're playing an Anaheim Ducks team that is 4-4-1. Last game you played a Minnesota Wild team that was 5-1-2. So there's going to be a little bit of a discrepancy when it comes to the level of talent you're going up against, but this is still a good Ducks team. This is a Ducks team that's having a better start to the season than the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you can't take anything for granted, especially with that guy in net. I mean, he has been the story of the game so far, is Lucas Dostal. Let me check how many shots on goal do the Penguins currently have here. 13? That can't be right. That has to be wrong. It's saying 13 in favor of the Ducks to 6 for the Penguins. That has to be incorrect there. 100%. Yeah, it just updated. There we go. 13-6 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Shout out to that site for updating. Got a couple of Lars Ellers in here. That second line has looked good. Chris Thomas says Lars Eller. So does Iconic Hair. Says Lars Eller gets my vote. I like it. I like it a lot, actually. Connor Wall says Pens open the scoring on the power play, and it'll be Sid with a tip from 8 feet beside the net. The classic Sidney Crosby. I like where your head's at. I'm not going to go as far as to say that's how he's going to score. But that's who I said before the game. I said it's going to be Sidney Crosby scoring his second of the game. Letang just had a shot on goal, and Earthquake Jake says Letang is going to score a goal here against the Anaheim Ducks. The first goal, that is. Okay, you can't keep saying a bunch of different names there, Jake. And I think you put another one in there earlier. He says Raquel. He says Letang. Let's see. He said Raquel earlier, so you know what? If Letang scores, I'm not giving you credit for that. You only get one submission that I'm going to give credit for. Blues Nation. Shout out to Blues Nation. Checking in here, hoping for a little bit of help in that Western Conference. Not that anybody's looking at the standings this earlier in the year, unless you're at the very, very top or at the very, very bottom, like the Pittsburgh Penguins. You have to keep an eye out on that whenever they're potentially going to be in 32nd, last place in the NHL going into November for the first time since the 70s. Again, shout out to Bob Grove for that little nugget. He's the king of Penguins, nuggets and stats. Things are getting a little testy behind the Anaheim Ducks net. Something's happening. Going after Crosby. Jack St. Ivan, he might have to step in again for the second game in a row and drop the mitts with somebody. Brian Dumoulin took exception to something. Another rare L that I'm noticing. I noticed it with Kevin Hayes. I'm noticing it now with Sidney Crosby. Their Movember stashes are out a little bit early. Shaved on October 31st. I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck. Now, it's not No Shave November, which is the more luck side of thing. Movember obviously is for a great cause. But noticing that a couple players, Rickard Rakell didn't. He still has that little patch of hair underneath his chin. I don't know why this is something I noticed, but it is. And that's what I do. Blues Nation says, don't worry, I'm not a St. Louis fan. It's for the Chelsea Blues. Pens all the way. I like it. How's Chelsea doing this year? I haven't really been keeping up with my EPL this year. I'm a little mad about that. So let me know. How's Chelsea doing this year? Christopher Hart says Puljujärvi scores first. Yes, a Puljujärvi is a healthy scratch in this one. So you, my friend, can definitely bring in a second opinion there. Puljujärvi is a healthy scratch today because of Blake Lizott's emergence in the lineup and emergence from the injured reserve. Chrissy says, Lizotte first goal 100%. I like that. I like that confidence. If he scores, that's one way to endear yourself to a fan base. 1 game, 1 goal as a fourth line center. Exactly what you want to see. Maybe a 2-on-1 here if the Penguins can hurry. Unfortunately, they can't. Cody Glass loses the puck and the referee skates, and that shuts down a 2-on-1 that he had with Michael Bunting once again in a good position. But here come the Ducks. Their speed is offering a big problem, and that's a goal. Not good. And who is it? Did I not call it? It's Alex Killorn who puts the puck in the back of the net. He found himself in front all alone. A nice pass from what I believe was Trevor Zegras. That play developed very quickly. Zegras to Killorn to the back of the net. And just like that, the Penguins control the majority of this period, but they still go down 1-0 on an Alex Killorn goal. And that was Trevor Zegras that was able to find him behind the net. The puck comes out past Ryan Graves, and that's Cody Glass just a hair too late getting to him. Not able to tie up Killorn's stick, and just like that, the Penguins fall behind 1-0. I hate being right like that, but I was. And I will take a small victory lap because that might be the only victory I get tonight with these Pittsburgh Penguins. If you're giving out candy night for trick-or-treaters, you're going to see ghosts, you're going to see goblins, you're going to see ghouls. You might see nothing more scary than a Pittsburgh Penguins hockey game tonight. I will tell you that as a matter of fact. But they have looked better, just down where it counts in the score sheet after that Alex Killorn goal. Chrissy with a great comment here. Can't blow a lead if you don't have a lead. So maybe that's the trick. That's how they won their last game, right? They got a lead at one point. They blew the lead. They fell behind. They tied it in the last minute. And then it was tied in overtime, and that's when they won. And that was against the Buffalo Sabres. Maybe Chrissy's onto something here. I like it. I like it. Shout out Chrissy. She's thinking with a big brain. Blues Nation, better, 5th in the league. And see, if I would have looked on the screen when I pulled it up instead of in my little list here, I would have known that is Chelsea FC that you're a fan of. I got to be better at that. Christopher says Killorn is going to score the first for the Penguins on an own goal. I mean, that would be something. Killorn giveth and Killorn taketh away. That'd be a nice little story at the beginning of this first period. You're just hoping the Penguins can get on the board before the end of this first and kind of steal that momentum back. Sidney Crosby in as this top forward line. Nice pass from Rakell over to Karlsson, who had all the time in the world, all the space in the world in front of him, and he was not able to beat Lukas Dostal, and here come the Anaheim Ducks the other way. Fortunately, nothing materializes there. The first line trying to do something. Rickard Rakell with a beautiful pass on that previous play, though, to just spring Erik Karlsson wide open in the slot. Karlsson, I would have liked to see him kind of take his time a little bit more. It felt like he rushed that shot. Dostal was already over and in position. Instead of just wiring it on when the goaltender's already squared up to you, I would have liked to see him kind of put him in a little bit more of a precarious position. Carry that puck further into the zone. And I know that leaves somebody potentially on the back end, but carry that puck further in the zone. See if that defender comes off of Crosby, who I think was on that left half wall. And if he comes off of him, feed him the pass if there's a lane there. If he doesn't, get into the zone a little bit more and have a higher percentage chance that you're going to be able to try to beat Dostal, maybe make a move on him. I know Karlsson has some moves still left in his tool set, even though he hasn't shown them very much this season. Ducks with about a minute and a half remaining in this first period of play, trying to get something going, but instead the puck just goes right out to center ice. They maintain possession, though. We'll see what they're able to do. If anything, they turn it over. Drew O'Connor is the party on the Penguins that's able to get it. He sends it deep, and here come the Pens on the forecheck. Looks like both Achari and Glass fell down on that forecheck, so the Ducks going to get a little bit of a respite there. They're going to try now for the third time to get it out of the offensive zone. But hey, 1 minute left in the period. They got a 1-0 lead. I'm sure they would be very happy, especially considering the way this period started, to take a 1-0 lead into the first intermission. But instead, they're going to send it down the ice for icing. 53.9 seconds remaining. Penguins trailing it 1-0 here in the first period. Let me take Christopher off the screen there. Appreciate you as always. Pens need to get some goal scoring here, and it can't all be from the top line. Yeah, it'd be nice to get any. Top line gets out there on the ice, but your bottom 9, if you're going to continue to do this top line, bottom 9 configuration, the bottom 6 is going to have to put one in the back of the net. They've looked better today than they did on Tuesday, but somebody's got to finish. The bottom 6 was finishing a lot earlier this season, but it gets to another level whenever you're putting Malkin and Crosby together on the ice. Another nice play by Rickard Rakell. Opportunity in front. Malkin not able to stuff it in. He was just a little bit too close for comfort there. Not able to really operate when you're that close to the goaltender. Shot on goal there by Karlsson is gloved down by Lukas Dostal. Rickard Rakell staying hot tonight. He's looking really good against his former team. Maybe he's the one that's going to be able to go out there and open the scoring. A couple people, including Earthquake Jake. That's your pick. Don't forget it. There is a penalty, and that's going to go on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So 10 seconds remaining in the first period. Looks like Sidney Crosby might be headed to the box. He is not pleased with that one. And the Anaheim Ducks will get 10 seconds of power play ice time, and if the Penguins can kill it off, they will start the second period on the man advantage. Once again, this is an area where the Pittsburgh Penguins have a little bit of an advantage coming into this game. Penguins have I'm not sure where that one is. I'm not sure what the call is on that one. I'm not sure about that call in general. But Crosby is going to head to the box there for a penalty on, you guessed it, Alex Killorn. They're going to call holding on that one. Interesting decision. I think it was a little bit of a weak call, but sometimes that's what happens. If you keep driving your feet like Killorn did, you're going to buy yourself a call. 10 seconds remaining in the period. Let's see if the Penguins can make sure that they give up a goal here. They're in a big trouble. That shot on. Nobody in front of the net. And fortunately, it gets away. Nobody was covering. I'm trying to see who that was. but nobody was covering the net front guy for the Anaheim Ducks. And that could have been a very scary situation for Alex Nedeljkovic. Fortunately, that does not go into the net. And the first period ends with a final score of, not a final score. The first period ends with the score of 1-0 in favor of the Anaheim Ducks. Shots on goal were, let me make sure this updated here. Shots on goal were 17-7 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Block shots 8-4 in favor of the Penguins as well. One penalty aside, Penguins did not score on the power play. The Ducks have about a minute 50 remaining in their first man advantage of the game. Ducks out hitting the Penguins 15-5 in this one, and the faceoffs are at 10 apiece. The one other thing that I'll say, giveaways 9-5. Penguins not on top in giveaways. That is new for this year. Blues Nation wants to know, who do you think will crack the Pens lineup quicker? Ponomarev, Koivunen, or Tristan Broz? Tristan Broz, of those three, is having the best season to this point. Koivunen is having a pretty solid season as well. He scored a goal in, I believe, the shootout winner last night for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. And Vasily Ponomarev, I think that he's behind the eight ball just simply because he's been rehabbing an injury. I believe it's a shoulder injury, if I'm not mistaken. He's been rehabbing that at the NHL level. He just got activated and sent down to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, so he's going to get in some action later this week. But I think because of that fact, because he now has to kind of bounce back, get his feet underneath him, kind of lost all that momentum that he had from Prospects Challenge, all the momentum that he had from the preseason, I think he's probably ruled out. I would imagine they end up going to Ville Koivunen before they go to Tristan Broz. Just a gut feeling on that one. Broz feels to me like a player that they're going to want to keep in the minors this year a little bit longer, so he can kind of marinate, so he can develop a little bit more. Whereas Koivunen has played professionally before, right? He came over to North America this year for the first time, or not for the first time. I believe he's played a couple AHL games in the past, but he came over to North America for a full season for the first time this season, but he was playing professionally over in Europe. Tristan Broz was college. He has to make that jump professionally. So good question, Blues Nation. But I think right now I would lean towards Koivunen. I think him and Broz have both been good, but I think, tie goes to the veteran. And as far as professional hockey is concerned, Ville Koivunen is the veteran in that situation. Earthquake Jake says, Sid has taken a lot of penalties lately. I am curious how many penalty minutes Sidney Crosby has racked up. We always do tip of the iceberg, a prediction for who's going to lead the team in penalty minutes. This year, my co-host Nick Horwat actually went with Kris Letang, which is interesting because for me, it's always Evgeni Malkin. Like, I'm always going to go to Evgeni Malkin. That's only Sidney Crosby's second penalty of the season to this point. So it might feel like it, but on paper, in reality, I should say, not on paper, in reality, this is only that's only his second penalty of the season. Sarah says the refs are not fans, not of Sidney Crosby on that call. No. And it looked like he was still trying to get an explanation as he was skating off the ice. Like, what did I do there? Like, what forced you to call that penalty? And, what should I do better? Because that's what all these guys like to do whenever they're called for something that's maybe a little ticky-tacky. Maybe. I'm not going to get fined from the NHL, so I can say that. I know Sid won't. But when there's something like that that's kind of ticky-tacky, kind of a light call, they're going to ask, they're say, what was it that you called? Like, what was it? My hand on his hip? Was it the stick coming across? Was it just the fact that, his progress was impeded? That's what he was trying to figure out there. But Crosby overall, only his second penalty of the year. You'd prefer that stay at 0, but that never happens. That never happens. Chrissy wants to know, is there already word on who's going to go first overall in the draft this year? Asking for no reason. For no reason. I can't ever remember his name, but his last name's Hagens, and he's the guy. James Hagens is the guy that is going to be the number 1 overall pick this year. Goes to Boston College. Very, very talented player. Not one of those, again, time will tell. The kid is only 17 years old at this current moment, will be 18 years old in 3 days, November 3rd. So happy early birthday to James Hagens, potentially future member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But he does play for Boston College, currently has 6 points in 4 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. In my head, I'm not expecting him to be, a Connor Bedard. I'm not expecting him to be a Connor McDavid. I'm not expecting him to be a Sidney Crosby, a generational type player. But again, you look at the first overall picks over the last couple of seasons. Last year was obviously Connor Bedard. This year, Macklin Celebrini, who's injured, but looked pretty good early on for the San Jose Sharks. The year before that, if I'm not mistaken, was Juraj Slafkovsky. Horrible rookie season, and then a stellar second season. So all of these first-round picks, even if they're not that cream of the crop, that change your organization type first-rounder, would immediately be a huge jolt for the Pittsburgh Penguins if they were able to get them. And Christopher jumps in here and helps as well, says James Higgins is that guy. So, asking for no particular reason, I understand it. I definitely understand it. Blues Nation says, makes sense for sure. What's going on with Taylor Gauthier? Gauthier is also injured. Again, shout out to Tony Andrikaitis for all of his updates. He's at Inside the AHL Hockey. I believe it's InsideAHLHockey.com. But he's Tony Andrikaitis. If you go find my Twitter account, which is at Nick Belsky, I retweet him a lot. I retweeted him early today. So you can find his handle there, and he gives you all the best updates on the AHL and specifically the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. But Taylor Gauthier is injured right now. I would imagine when he comes back healthy, he probably goes to the ECHL where Sergei Murashov is currently, because right now, until he comes back, which is, I believe, is still a week from Saturday, Tristan Jarry gets every single start at the AHL level. Kyle Dubas said as much whenever they sent him down there about a week and a half ago. Christopher said, I only knew because I started looking it up after the last game. Listen, after that last game, I'm sure you're not alone in looking up, man, who's supposed to be the first overall pick? Like, it's been a while since Penguins fans have been like, maybe I should start looking at draft prospects in November. But I wouldn't blame you if you did. I don't blame you if you did, Chris. I don't. Earthquake Jake says, go Penguins. Sometimes you just might need to remind yourself, hey, we're all rooting for the Pens. We all want to see them win. We all want to see them find success, get out of this slump, get that first win in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I don't remember how long ago that Buffalo game was. Probably 2 weeks. 3 weeks seems a little bit long, but looks like they updated the shots on goal, so it's 18-7 in favor of the Penguins after one period of play. I mean, as a team, can't ask for much more than that. One defensive breakdown, it ends up in the back of your net. It's unfortunate. I'm not going to put that on Alex Nedeljkovic by any means. Most goaltenders aren't saving that shot, but, it's how the cookie crumbles. That's hockey sometimes, and actually most of the time for the Pittsburgh Penguins, that's hockey. They can control the pace of play for an entire period, and the one opportunity that goes the other way finds the back of the net. They also did get one off the post, too, so let's not say it's all puck luck. They got a little bit in their favor, so we'll see if they're able to respond. I think if they play exactly the way they played in that first period, unless they get absolutely goalied by Lucas Dostal, which as of right now, that's where it's trending, but unless that persists, if they play the same way they've been playing, I find it hard to believe they're not going to get back into this game and take the lead in this game at some point tonight. You're hoping so. We had the jersey discussion a little bit earlier. I'm going to go to that just because it's intermission. I'll give my keys to the second period, my things to watch in the second period once we start to see the second period starting ramping up and the players getting back out on the ice. But the Washington Capitals really need to change their jerseys. Like before, it was them and the Ducks. Who's going to bite first? Who's going to finally change their jersey first? The Ducks did, and the Ducks have one of the nicest jerseys in the NHL now. The Caps need one. They need a refresher, and that's coming from a guy that lives in the DMV, lives in Northern Virginia. I see Capitals jerseys all over the place. They need a new one. Like even their third jerseys, the blue jersey with the white shoulders and the W in the middle with the DC stars across it. That's a nice jersey. I would rank that if that was their main jersey. I would rank that in the top half of the league. But their typical red jerseys and their white jerseys with the Capitals script across, it's awful. It's awful. It served its purpose. The Screaming Eagle was way better. And honestly, if they went back to the Screaming Eagle with red, white, and blue, I would not be mad. I would not be mad at all. So a lot of storylines in this one. Obviously, Brian Dumoulin's back in Pittsburgh. Ricard Raquel's taking on his former team for the 5th time since he was traded to Pittsburgh. Nedeljkovic gets back in the net. It's the second chance for that top line, bottom 9 configuration. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest storyline surrounding the Pittsburgh Penguins right now is the goaltending situation. There's a lot that's going wrong with the Penguins defense. Obviously, you can talk about the head coach, which I'm surprised nobody's asked about the head coach and hot seat or anything. So if you want to ask, I have an answer. I've given the same answer the last couple of episodes that I've done on Tip of the Ice-Burgh. So if you've seen it, I get it. But if you haven't, let's just say the hot seat is not on for Mike Sullivan right now. That's short answer. It's not. But I think of all of the major questions that the Penguins have, and they do have major questions anytime you're 3-7-1, that's going to be the case. Goaltending is the biggest one. Fortunately, and again, this is something that if you solely just follow based on social media, and there's nothing wrong with that, not everybody has time to look into the nitty-gritty, you would think, oh, Tristan Jarry's down in the minors and he still sucks. He did give up a bad goal yesterday, which is why I feel a lot of people are saying, oh, he's down in the AHL and he's still not performing well. He's performing pretty well at the AHL level. He's 2-0, has a .922 save percentage. Yeah, was there a goal or two that he's had down there, that he's allowed down there, that he'd probably want to have back? Yes, that happens at every level. And would you have liked to see Tristan Jarry go down there and just get 6 shutouts and come back up and be in peak form? Yeah, that's what you'd like to see. But considering what we saw him at before he got sent down, which is a sub 800 save percentage, the fact that he's at .922 down there, again, caveat, make sure you throw the asterisk next to it. He is doing it against AHL level talent, but he's doing what you expect him to do, which is perform well. And they're 2-0-0, which helps as well. Winning organizationally is always something you want to see. So a good start there for him and a good start for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. But that brings up, and we talked about it earlier today, a lot of questions. Whenever he does eventually come back up, which is going to be at the end of next week, because the conditioning stint can only be 2 weeks. When he does come up, you do have Blake Lizotte now that's activated. You're at 23 out of 23 roster spots. He comes up. If Nieto's back, you have to activate him. If Brian Rust comes back at some point, you have to activate him. So you're not going to be able to carry the 3 goaltenders unless you decide, oh, we're just not going to have that extra skater as a forward. We're not going to have that extra skater as a defenseman. Right now, it's been Ryan Shea for the past several games. So I think that they're going to have a big decision to make in a week. And this is going to continue to be one of the biggest dramas surrounding the Pittsburgh Penguins this entire season. But I just wanted to, for everybody that didn't tune into today's episode, which you should, we go into much more detail about where he's at, where the Penguins are at situation-wise. He has performed better since going back to the AHL, which is a good thing, because even if you're in the camp of they should trade Tristan Jarry, you can't do that unless he performs better. Now, him performing better at the AHL is not going to raise his trade stock, but if he's performing better down there, maybe he transitions, performs better at the NHL level, and then if you're in the camp of trade Jarry, it makes it a little bit more of a reality. Let's go over. Chrissy's the MVP of the comment section so far. So if you want to be the MVP of the comment section, you got to get on Chrissy's level. Says, hey, I just randomly thought of this question. Do you think Mike Sullivan is on the hot seat? No, I don't. I don't think he gets on the hot seat unless they stay this bad throughout the season. I don't think that conversation starts at the earliest February. I think they're going to give him a lot of grace because the expectations have been lowered, right? Last year, you came in, you're saying, yeah, this team's going to bounce back into the playoffs, right? They missed by 1 point. They added Erik Karlsson, who just scored 100 points. Yeah, they're going to get back into the playoffs. They didn't. They actually got worse. They were 3 points out of the playoffs. And then this summer, the expectations changed because the focus shifted in the front office. They didn't go out and sign the big name player. They didn't go out and make the big trade. Instead of what they did is they brought in a bunch of prove-it players. Anthony Beauvillier, one-year deal. Blake Lizotte does not fall into that camp, but Matt Grzelcyk does. So I think because of that, the expectations were lowered. And once the expectations are lowered, it's a little bit harder to put a coach on the hot seat whenever you give them a lineup that you're not expecting to go out there and be a top 3 team in the Metropolitan Division. Did they expect to be a playoff team this year? Yeah. But I think everybody knew that they were, at best, a bubble playoff team this year, starting the year off exactly where they finished the last 2, which is probably outside looking in. But with the players they have, maybe they're able to kind of burst through and get back into the playoffs and get an opportunity at one of those top seeds, or to play one of those top seeds, not at getting one of those top seeds. So I think because of that, he's not on the hot seat. To answer your, and conversely, initially my question that I asked and forced other people to ask. Let's go to Blues Nation here. Do you think among any current league job, this is the most difficult for a GM, since this is a situation where we are hamstrung by still wanting to, quote, contend, but also rebuild at the same time? I'm trying to think through, but for the reasons you outlined, Blues Nation, 100%. It would have to be, if it's not the most difficult GM position right now, it's guaranteed top 3 because of that reason. Because it's not just, hey, you have a core, right? You have a Mount Rushmore of all-time hockey player in Sidney Crosby that's coming off of a 94-point season, so he still got it. You have a Hockey Hall of Fame second-line center in Evgeni Malkin, who's coming off a season where, now, albeit he did drop in points, was still among the top 10 in second-line centers in scoring. So you have one of the best second-line centers in hockey and a Hall of Famer in Malkin, who you owe it to continue to go for it in his last 2 years. You have Kris Letang, who's in a similar situation. You have Erik Karlsson, who's in a similar situation. Not to mention, you have so much money sunk into these guys, and guys that you're not going to be able to trade away, right? None of those guys, until at least Malkin retires. That's when I think you might be able to open a conversation with a Karlsson or with a Letang. I don't think that conversation starts until Malkin retires after next season. You want to contend because of those guys, but you also have to restock the cabinet. That is one of the things that I give Kyle Dubas the most praise for, and what he's done in his first year and some change as the Penguins president of hockey ops and general manager. The cupboard was empty, right? It was like somebody had literally moved out and taken all of it with them. And that was Jim Rutherford, and that was Ron Hextall, who picked up the scraps. Dubas has come in. He's rebuilt the cupboard a little bit. He's gotten some draft picks. He's gotten some good value for trades, i.e. specifically what he got back for Riley Smith. I think that was a steal. Getting Kevin Hayes, who's been pretty good for a second rounder, thought that was good. Getting Cody Glass, who has turned out to be a good piece early in the season, despite not getting on the score sheet with any goals, for a second rounder, I believe, as well, or whatever, for draft capital that was better than a seventh. I think that was good as well. And then getting some of these guys in the organization. I liked the McGroarty for Braden Yeager trade. I think it's a gamble as much as anything else is, but I think that when you look at the position they're in, as you mentioned, Blues Nation, that's a trade that kind of services both sides, right? It helps you today because you get a guy in Wrecker McGroarty who at some point this season you're going to expect to come up and be an everyday NHLer, versus a guy in Braden Yeager who also has a high upside, also has a high ceiling, just like McGroarty, but he's probably not going to be ready. He's definitely not going to be ready this year, and he might not be ready next year. So I think that's one that services both sides, but I do agree. I think this is one of, if not the most difficult jobs right now in the National Hockey League, as general manager of the Penguins. And I think that he's had his misses. He's not perfect, and trust me, he's made some very big mistakes. I mean, right now, obviously the Ryan Graves contract, obviously the Tristan Jarry contract, obviously you can make the argument about the Erik Karlsson trade. I think there's still a lot to be decided about that one, but yeah, it's a difficult job. It's a difficult position that he's in. Penguins are out to start the second period. Sidney Crosby takes a seat in the penalty box. 1:50 remaining on the man disadvantage for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Ducks power play is 27th in the NHL. Penguins penalty kill is 7th, so maybe they can improve on those numbers. So of this period, I said I'd give you like tips to win for the individual period. First and foremost, kill the penalty. Please kill the penalty. Secondly, just get those high danger opportunities a little bit more. It seems like they're just an inch or a fraction of an inch off for some of these plays. I mean, they showed the great opportunity for Crosby. He had an open net. He was swiping at the puck for the open net. He just couldn't get it through the defender. So you have to be able to finish on your opportunities. And I want to see more opportunities down low in front of Dostal. They were given a lot of shots from the point, and he was seeing them. He was snagging them, and he wasn't giving up many rebounds. Get some of those shots down low. Try to drive towards the bottom side of the ice and drive into that crease of Lukas Dostal. I think that's going to be the biggest one. And also, how about we keep an eye on whoever's in front of our net? Don't let Alex Killorn kind of run freely. I know that it was Cody Glass that was just a hair too slow to get back to him. I'd have to rewatch that. I can't do it when I'm live on here because I don't rewind and replay. I keep it all live when I do this. Where was the other defender, right? Where was Matt Grzelcyk on that play? Because it was Letang that was on the ice there. So you would have to imagine it was Grzelcyk. Again, I'd have to go back and watch it, but where was he? Because on the replays I've seen, just couldn't find out where he was on that one. 40 seconds remaining on the Anaheim Ducks man advantage to start this second period of play. Looks like the Penguins power play or penalty kill is in good form tonight, which is nice. They were in peak form on Tuesday, 6 for 6 on the kill against the Minnesota Wild. This is their first opportunity of tonight's matchup. Jack St. Ivy unable to settle it down. And now the Ducks can set it up for the first time, it looks like. So they got only about 10 seconds left. So a good job by the power play, but you gotta shut things down. Nobody in front of Nedeljkovic. Nice, easy save to kick off his second period. 2 seconds and 1. Sidney Crosby is out of the box. Penguins kill the penalty, but the Ducks are still pressuring. They still had somebody, I think that's Alex Killorn again, wide open in front of the net. That's too much puck watching for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think you had 3 players that were below the dots that were watching the puck and nobody covering Alex Killorn. Now, of course, some of the passing lanes looked like they may have been clogged up, but he was wide open, and all it takes is one missed blocked pass for that to be probably a second goal of the game for Alex Killorn. Brandon Rickner says, do I want Hagens or Martone? I'm going with Hagens. I'm still rocking with Hagens. I'm going with the BC kid. That's just where it is right now. We'll see how the season progresses. That's a weak shot on to Alex Nedeljkovic. Ricochets the other way. And now that the Penguins are at 5-on-5, you'd like to see them start pushing like they did in that first. Shout out to Sportsnet Pittsburgh for this little nugget. 18 shots on goal in the first period for the Penguins, tied for the most in any period this season. So when I said they were off to one of their best starts of the season, there's a little bit of proof. There is a little bit of proof. Penn's top line trying to go to work. Crosby has a little bit of space, tries to find Rickard Rakell. Puck just doesn't get through the Ducks defender there. It looks like a lot of the time tonight, it's been that Karlsson pairing that they've put up there with Crosby. That's easily an offsides there on Evgeni Malkin. Slows down the progress of one Cody Glass. But it looks like they're trying to match up Erik Karlsson with their top forward line of Crosby, of Rakell, of Malkin. I think part of that is just to continue their emergence as a more offensive unit. I mean, we looked at what they were able to do on Tuesday, scored 2 goals, both of them coming from Rickard Rakell. Didn't allow any goals, which is good. You're really putting that to the test when you're throwing out Erik Karlsson, though. But, I mean, that also means you have Marcus Pettersson out there as well. So, but how much can one player defend when the other 4 are all focused on offense? I think that's what kind of plays into the reason that a lot of people are seeing Marcus Pettersson struggle this season. Not all on that. I mean, obviously he has to take some responsibility for that, but he hasn't been set up in the best of situations so far. My cat is looking at the ceiling and freaking me out right now. But Penguins, defensive zone faceoff is what it looks like. Second line is out there. Nola Chari. That's the second time tonight Michael Bunting's mouthpiece has ended up on the ice. What are we doing here? Why are we wearing it? That's just a thing some people do. Sometimes it's they got the mouthpiece, but it's never actually being used. And I feel like Michael Bunting's one of those guys. He chews on that thing more than Danny Smith, the special teams coordinator for the Steelers, chews on bubblegum. All right, this line's getting a little bit of ozone time. Let's see if they can set something up. And instead, they turn that puck over, and they're going to go for a change. So the Penguins, the one thing they haven't been able to do the last 4 minutes, the first 4 minutes of this period, they were the last 5 minutes of the previous period, haven't been able to get sustained zone time and continue to put pressure on Lucas Dostal. He's certainly settled in this one. He's seeing pucks well tonight. He's feeling it. You're going to have to kind of get more pressure on him. You're going to have to move that puck around. You're going to have to make him kind of get off of his spot to make him a little bit more uncomfortable so you can start putting that puck in the back of the net. Radko Gudas, captain of the Anaheim Ducks, helps get that puck out of the zone. And here comes Valtteri Puustinen. Is that Pustin or is that Lizotte? That's going to start messing me up. We have a 46 and a 48 now. That's new. That is Blake Lizotte out there. I like it. Penn's trying to figure something out here. Anthony Beauvillier. I mean, we talk about Jesse Puljujärvi got the healthy scratch tonight because of the return of Blake Lizotte, but I would not be surprised if Beauvillier is teetering on that line as well. He hasn't provided very much. He hasn't provided very much all season, despite the fact that he has 3 goals, whereas, Jesse Puljujärvi only has 1. There's almost another opportunity for Alex Killorn. Can somebody put a mark on number 17? Please. Somebody. Keep an eye out for 17 because he's getting open in the same slot that he scored that goal in, too. It's not like it didn't bite you before. He scored the lone goal of the game in that spot, and that's the second time in this period he's been left alone. Fortunately for the Penguins, they were able to shut down the pass. Otherwise, again, wide open look. And for a team that's struggling as defensively as they are, when it's that obvious, maybe we should cover number 17 in the slot. Karlsson's pass up the ice doesn't connect with anybody on his own team and instead goes to the Anaheim Ducks. Karlsson gets a second chance at this one, sends it up, and this time does connect with Sidney Crosby. There it is again. Crosby unit out there with the Karlsson pairing. Let's see if it actually equates to anything. Penn's trying to get something going here. Malkin, a bad pass, and that's going to turn it over. This is exactly what you didn't want to see happen. The Penguins came out with so much life, with so much energy, with so much momentum, and they controlled that early portion of the first period. You give up that 1 goal, and now everything's starting to break down a little bit. The passes are going off skates. The passes are a little bit behind. As I say that, Matt Grzelcyk takes a nice pass over to Malkin, who finds Karlsson at this point. He shoots it in. Dostal on his back, but instead, he's still able to find it, still able to do the patented Marc-Andre Fleury Snow Angel and settle things down for the Penguins' best opportunity of the period to this point. 13:33 remaining in the second period. Penguins still trail by a score of 1-0. Earthquake Jake says, when you get the chance, tell us about your cat. Is he a Penguins fan too? He actually is. His name is Dash. Depending on who you ask, me or my wife, is what he's named after. If you ask my wife, he's named after the Kardashians. If you ask me, he's named after the kid from The Incredibles. So he does like hockey, though. From a young age, he has watched hockey with me. Likes watching the puck go back and forth. Probably thinks it's a mouse or something like that. But he is a Penguins fan. Does enjoy watching hockey, and I have no idea where he went. So, but appreciate you asking. Also, Earthquake Jake says, it's cool seeing Radko Gudas as a captain. I always have mixed feelings. In this situation, I like that it's a veteran. I like that it's a scrappy guy. I like that it is just kind of a role-playing defenseman. It's not the star of the team. They have many more stars on that team besides Radko Gudas, right? You have Troy Terry, who has emerged and been very good for them over the past couple of seasons. You have, Trevor Zegras. That's a discussion for a different day. But you have other players like, Mason McTavish, who's young and could potentially be a leader on that team in the future. Leo Karlsson is young and could potentially be a leader on that team. Even Alex Killorn, he is a Stanley Cup champion, a multi-time Stanley Cup champion. He is an assistant captain on that team, but he could have been an option. But in that type of situation, when there's a lot of very young leaders that you could say, yeah, maybe in the future, I like that they kind of gave Radko Gudas that Lifetime Achievement Award. He's been a good professional hockey player for a very long time. He's been a good locker room guy. He's been a good leader. So I do agree with you that I like it. An example of where I didn't like the role player getting the captaincy, I don't like, and again, this is going to come off as just, Penguins writer, Penguins show runner disliking the Rangers captain, Jacob Trouba, but I didn't agree with that one. I didn't. I thought Chris Kreider deserved it, although at the time, I don't know if they thought Chris Kreider was going to, stick around, and he still might not. They're calling it the last dance. Kreider might be the player that ends up getting sent out because of that, but I thought Chris Kreider deserved it more than Trouba. I thought maybe Mika Zibanejad deserved it more than Trouba, but again, I'll have to ask, friends of mine that are Rangers fans, what they think about that, because obviously some of them love Jacob Trouba, some of them hate Jacob Trouba. Alex Stiles says, will they score 5+ goals? Combined, probably not. And individually, that means also probably not. Anaheim is one of the better defensive teams in the NHL. The Penguins right now, they had their best shot in that first. Maybe they have another one in the chamber, but they had their best shots in that first. Weren't able to beat Lucas Dostal, who's been one of the better goaltenders of the season so far. Where can I watch the translation? I'm not sure how that works on YouTube, to be completely honest. I apologize. I wish I had an answer for you. I'm not sure if you put on maybe the subtitles, if that would work in a different language, but certainly I definitely don't know if, actually I can check this with ESPN Plus if that's where you're watching, because that's where I'm watching. I don't know if you can change the language. No, you can't. So I wish I had answers for you, but I don't at the moment. Blues Nation says things still getting chippy. Mason McTavish and Ryan Graves down there on the ice. 12:10 remaining, and things getting a little intense between these two teams. Two teams that don't see each other very much. Obviously, the Penguins are in a very dire situation this early in the season. They need to show really anything. Subtitles not an option on the show. Well, that's interesting. Don't like that. Thank you for letting me know that. But Blues Nation says, I'm not sure Matt Nieto is a real person. I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you forgot that's why things got heated. Mason McTavish just goes right into Alex Nedeljkovic. Ryan Graves took exception. You like to see him standing up for his goaltender, and they're going to call Mason McTavish on goaltender interference. I was about to say that better be a penalty, because that's as blatant as it gets. And for how weak that call was on Crosby, you'd have to imagine that they were going to be calling that. So 2-minute, second power play of the game for the Penguins. This time they do start their top unit. Crosby loses the faceoff, and the puck is immediately sent down by the guy we've been talking about a lot. That is Radko Gudas. So second power play opportunity of the game for the Penguins. It's cooled down a little bit after a pretty good start. Has their power play. That first opportunity, they had 3 shots on goal, which is what you like to see, but I don't think they set it up quite enough. Malkin fighting on the boards, and he instead turns around and sends a no-look pass directly to a Ducks penalty killer. 30 seconds killed on this power play. Pens have nothing doing here. This is a chance to build some momentum for the Penguins, and instead it feels like they're just building more momentum for the Anaheim Ducks. Here comes Karlsson trying to set it up. He takes the puck behind the net, sends it up to Evgeni Malkin. Malkin quickly over to Letang. Letang just loses the puck off his stick, and this could be trouble. A 2-on-1, unless Karlsson gets back. He doesn't get back. Fortunately for him, the penalty killer for the Ducks sent the pass wide, and the Penguins shoot up the ice the other direction. Evgeni Malkin takes it. He tries to send it over to Erik Karlsson. This is awful. Bad power play. Erik Karlsson is dogging it on his way back. And the Ducks instead send it all the way back and send it up the ice. Evgeni Malkin plucks that out of the air. He's going to go up into the offensive zone. Second unit coming over the boards. Let's see if they can get anything going. Kevin Hayes sends it to the point. Nice pass up there to Michael Bunting. Bunting in the front. He shoots, looking for a redirection. That was close for Evgeni Malkin, who's the last remaining member of the top power play unit out there on the ice. You'd have to imagine he goes for a change as that puck comes out of the zone. 24 seconds remaining on the man advantage. And this looks like it's going to be a very harmless power play for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 8 seconds, 7 seconds, and 6. Alex Nedeljkovic got ran over for just about nothing. One opportunity. I'll give him that one. Michael Bunting shooting it on, looking for the redirection from Malkin, but they spent more time in their own zone than they did in the offensive zone on that power play. Never a good thing. That shot's in on Lucas Dostal. He shuts it down, and with 10:01 remaining in the second period, halfway point of this game, the Penguins have 20 shots on goal, but have not been able to figure out the Anaheim Ducks netminder. But Matt Nieto skating again. Sorry, kind of got lost in the power play there. Blues Nation, but skating again, practicing again with the team. He's on LTIR, but he's eligible to come off, I believe. He has to be on for, I believe it's 20-some days, but it's retroactive to the beginning of the season, so he's getting pretty close here. Probably in another week or so, he'll be able to come off LTIR. And if he's ready, that's when you're going to have some very, very interesting decisions to be made for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We have officially passed the halfway point of this game, a 1-0 score, which, I mean, if you're watching the Penguins this year, you say 1-0 at the midway point. That seems like at least a little bit better on the defensive side of the puck. And only 11 shots on goal. I would tend to agree with you on that one. Pens have given up 3+ goals in every game so far this season. So we might see a little bit of a 2024-2025 history here for this edition of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But don't want to speak too soon because Alex Killorn is always lurking. But Matt Nieto, it'll be intriguing to see him play again. Obviously, long road back. Happy to see that he's getting back out there, hoping that he's able to go out there and be the player the Pens wanted him to be a couple of years back when they signed him to a multi-year deal. Brennan Martin wants to know, is it that the Penguins don't get quality chances or they don't have quality finishers anymore? Well, for a long time, it was they got a bunch of quality chances, but just didn't have quality finishers. I think that has been the case the 3 previous seasons. This year, with the team that we've seen, it's a little bit of both. I mean, they've gotten quality chances. And honestly, offensively, they've been very good. Let's not mince words about it. Up until the last maybe 2 games, they've scored 3 goals in the last 2 games as well. They've been pretty good offensively this season. They've been one of the better teams at creating chances. They've been one of the better teams at scoring per game this season. It's just tonight they're just not finishing, right? They're creating the chances. They're just not finishing. Most of those chances came in the first. But for a long time, they were among the best in the NHL at creating chances. And this isn't like 16, 17 Cup champion teams. This is the 2022 team that lost in the first round of the Rangers. That was one of the better 5-on-5 teams of the year that year. They just, a lot of the times, had finishers or didn't have the finishers, didn't have people to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. This year, for the most part, it's been pretty good. In this game, obviously, the finishers has been the issue. Another opportunity in front there. And again, Evgeni Malkin is in there. He's in the right position. But Dostal is just so confident right now. He's out at the top of the crease, taking away space, and just eats up those pucks. There's nowhere to get past him. And speaking of former Penguins, forgot about Brock McGinn. Completely forgot about Brock McGinn. We talked about the Rickard Rakell trade, but we haven't talked about the fact that Brock McGinn's out there on the ice. So another former Penguin to keep your eye out for. Him and Brian Dumoulin potentially able to, do that thing tonight. Brennan Martin says, going to see the Penguins play in Ottawa in December. Hopefully they're a bit better then. Penguins and the Senators are always interesting because the Penguins can't stand, not that many people can, as far as opponent-wise, but the Penguins can't stand Brady Tkachuk. It's always something with them. In fact, you go back and look at the Kraft Hockeyville game, and Brady Tkachuk was getting into a fight. So it should be an interesting game, and I agree with you. I hope they're better by them, especially by December. You're hoping they figure out a lot of these issues, maybe a little bit better on defense, maybe a little bit healthier, and maybe, just maybe, I mean, I'm not going to hold out hope, but maybe you get Tristan Jarry back, and he looks like the guy that was a 2-time All-Star. Again, is that likely? I would put that more towards the no pile, but at the end of the day, it's what you're hoping for if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. Before we continue here, it is October, which means it is still, for the remainder of tonight, for the next 3 hours and 36 minutes, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but we should always obviously have awareness of breast cancer. But because of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are proud to partner with the Rangers Ed podcast and Little Ed's Workshop to raise money for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Head on over to the link in our description below. Check out our variety of men's and women's t-shirts, as well as a selection of hooded sweatshirts. 100% of the profits will be donated directly to breast cancer research and breast cancer awareness. Once again, visit the link in our description below to get your t-shirts and sweatshirts. In October, hockey players wear pink. I meant to wear that shirt today. It's somewhere else in here, so I'll just stick with what I'm wearing right now. They're back from commercial break. 7:21 remaining in this one. Penguins against the Anaheim Ducks. A 1-0 score in favor of the Ducks, despite the Penguins. out shooting them 24-13 and outplaying them a lot in that first period. It's been more back and forth in this second period of play. Both teams getting a power play in this one. Ducks got it to begin the period. Penguins got it towards the middle of the period, but nothing doing for either team on the power play. It's penalty kill units that are controlling this one on special teams. Brock McGinn, speak of the devil and he shall appear. He gets in and gets an opportunity. Instead, that rolls off his stick and goes to a defender. Pens, top line, trying to get something going here. Actually, this is a different line. I don't know if they're in the middle of a change or not. Evgeni Malkin, Anthony Beauvillier, and Sidney Crosby out there on the ice right now. That's certainly an interesting combination. Beauvillier hops off, and here comes Rickard Rakell. So no, they were just in the midst of a change. Here could be an opportunity for the Ducks. They wind up, try to go to the slot, and that just doesn't get through. Here comes Rickard Rakell, who's one of the better Pittsburgh Penguins of this season and of this game so far. He's not able to get anything going. Radko Gudas sends it in on Alex Nedeljkovic. Nedeljkovic shuts things down and gets a snow shower for his trouble. Drew O'Connor not happy about that. And I like O'Connor. I think O'Connor is tougher than people give him credit for, but that is a tough customer in Radko Gudas. I don't think anybody on the Penguins is going to go toe-to-toe with him. Maybe if they still had John Ludwig, they don't. But maybe Jack St. Ivany. St. Ivany dropped the gloves, got into a scrap last game. Looked like he held his own in that one, but Gudas is an absolute monster. Blues Nation wants to know. Oh, a little personal question here. I like it. Again, if you're tuned in right now live on Tip of the Ice-Burgh on YouTube, drop your questions in, drop your comments in. We'll have a little nice discussion here between whistles, usually through the whistle. If you ask a good enough question, I'll end up answering the question, not paying attention to the game for a couple minutes, which is probably not the best thing to do, but hey, sometimes it's more fun to talk to you guys than watch the Penguins this season. But Blues Nation says, what got you into journalism and coverage? Growing up, a Pittsburgh Penguins fan from Western Pennsylvania, grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is obviously huge hockey town. Watching the Pens from a very young age and listening to guys like Mike Lang. And to me, that was the gold standard. That was always the best. There would be games where, I'd be watching the game with my family. We would put the game on mute on television. Nothing against Paul Steigerwald. He was also very good. But we'd put that on mute to listen to the Hall of Famer, listen to Mike Lang and his calls. And hearing him call a game, it just got me into it so much more. So because of that, got into journalism, had an on-air position at the age of 12, covering my high school football team. Was a halftime reporter for that, did the halftime show for that. And I just got hooked and stayed on it ever since. So went to Point Park in Pittsburgh. So stayed very close to the Penguins, stayed very close to Pittsburgh sports, and got my journalism degree, got a broadcast reporting degree, and then got the opportunity to get this Tip of the Ice-Burgh show in 2019. Been doing it ever since. So this is not my first rodeo with Tip of the Ice-Burgh. It's been 6 years. So glad that some people have been with us the entire way. We still see people from 2019 that check in, and glad to have all of you new and jumping in here on our live stream here. Not only do we do live stream watch-alongs, which is new this season on Tip of the Ice-Burgh, we have new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, me and my co-host Nick Horwat, as well as a live stream every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, just to kind of talk about the news of the week. I give my 3 stars of the week, all that fun stuff. And then, of course, on Mondays, I should say, we do our power rankings. So if you want to know what we're all about and you're new to the channel, like, share, subscribe, go back and check out some of our stuff, including our latest power rankings edition that came out on Monday. There's already going to be some changes going into next week because this week it was a tough one. Anytime you go 0-3 in a week and your players are just none of your players are really participating well, and you're getting beat 4-0 and outshot 50 to whatever the Penguins had against Edmonton, it didn't matter. It wasn't enough to beat Stuart Skinner. Whenever that's happening, coming up with a top 5 gets pretty difficult. You have to start looking at some very nominal contributions to be like, yeah, I guess that makes him a top 5 player for that team. Pens are spending a little bit more time in that defensive zone in this period. That shot came in. That could have been a problem. But fortunately, that just goes harmlessly over the top of the net. Anaheim Ducks trying to set things up from the point this period a little bit more. Getting those shots in, trying to get redirections past Alex Nedeljkovic, who has been fairly good in this game. I will say that. Probably one of his better performances, one of his less busy performances of the season there as the Penguins try to go backdoor to Michael Bunting. He's not able to corral that one. And there's another penalty on the ice, looking like a holding call on the Anaheim Ducks, Frankie Vatrano, who is sporting a very, very impressive shiner there. I'm wondering how he got that. But that is a crazy shiner. He's not happy about the holding call. I'm sure Crosby wasn't happy about his in the first period. So that's something that it seems like this unit is going to be calling a lot. That was a pass by Erik Karlsson to Michael Bunting. Not a bad pass, but at the same time, yeah, I can see why Vatrano's not happy. Michael Bunting had his free hand out there as well, but sometimes that's the calls you get. Crosby got one in the first period, and now Vatrano gets one in the second period. A little weak. I will grant him that. I do not begrudge him for being upset about that. So the Penguins power play earlier in the period looked not so good. Let's see what they do out here on the power play this time. Matt Grzelcyk out there with the top unit. Got to have to check in and see if there's something wrong with Kris Letang or if he just needs a break. But there's an opportunity in front of the net for Rakell. He misses it, and so too does Erik Karlsson on the rebound shot. Puck is sent down the length of the ice. So a nice little setup there to start it. Nice opportunity for Rakell. Nice look that Erik Karlsson got. That's already better than what we saw in the first power play. Malkin takes it into the zone. He sends it across, and this is what you don't want to see from Evgeni Malkin. These errant passes on the power play. This is when you know, all right, there's something off here. He's not feeling it as much as he did the last two games. It looked good in the first period, had his gallop, but now he looks like he's gliding a little bit. The Pens are going to need him to find his game here because they need to get something past a red-hot goaltender and Lucas Dostal. Malkin takes the puck. Let's see what he does with it this time. He shoots it. That's a good shot on goal from Evgeni Malkin, but a nice save by Lucas Dostal, who just seemingly caught that puck towards the tail end of the shot and was able to react and make a nice save on it. Pens trying to break the puck out. It's Matt Grzelcyk getting a lot of ice time on this power play. Evgeni Malkin, touch pass over to Rickard Rakell. He tries to find Grzelcyk. Scratch that. That's Puustinen. Pens are switching the lines a little bit over here. Puustinen out there instead of Erik Karlsson right now. Sends it over to Letang. So Letang was just demoted, it seems like. Either that or he just wasn't ready for the shift, needed to get a stick changed. We won't read into it too much since he's out there the next shift. Pens trying to get something going. Only about 18 seconds remaining on this power play. So if they want to get a power play goal, they're going to have to hurry. Not very much by way of, building momentum for the power play in this one. 6 seconds and 5. That's probably going to do it for the power play as the Ducks take possession. A bad pass there by not Erik Karlsson, by Kris Letang, and I guess that could be interchangeable these days, the way those two have been playing to start the season. And that ends the power play. 2:42 remaining in the first as we're back at 5-on-5. The Ducks take possession once again. They're starting to control the pace of play in this one. The Penguins, at this point, it'd be nice if they scored, but right now they just kind of need to reset in the middle of those periods, second and third, and come out better in that third, more so like what we saw in that first period of play. Good opportunity here, though, for Kevin Hayes. His shot is redirected by a Ducks defenseman up and out of play. Earthquake Jake says, I'm sure Malkin would fare well against Gudas. Evgeni Malkin hasn't really fought very much in his career. Most of the time, whenever he's doing something physical like that, it's a penalty. And a lot of the times it's a double minor or a major and not for fighting. But I think if you get red mist Malkin, potentially, Malkin is an absolute giant. There's people that are like, I don't know about Evgeni Malkin being a physical player. No, Evgeni Malkin is massive. So maybe he does, but let's just say Gudas has a much longer track record in the NHL of being a tough customer. We got a couple of questions down here. So we will get to those in just a minute because we got 2 minutes left in the period. So let's focus in on these final 2 minutes. I always say you never want to give up a goal in the first or last 2 minutes of a period. That's when you shift the momentum the most. You'd like to get one here, but the way that things have been trending for Anaheim in this period, you'd like to just keep it within one going into the second period of play. I still have, I will give credit where credit is due so far tonight, and I do want to kind of try to bring this up just to put the kibosh on it. Pens fan 55 said nobody will score tonight. That was his prediction of who will score the Pens' first goal. He said nobody. As of right now, Pens fan 55 is the leader in the clubhouse for that one. Pens still with a goose egg against the Anaheim Ducks and Lucas Dostal. Haven't had to say his name a lot in the second period. Had to say it a lot in the first. He hasn't been tested nearly as much here in the second frame. We got a quick stop here. Maybe a false start on the stripes. That's what it appears to be. Doesn't matter anyway. Lars Eller wins it once again. Penn's trying to get something going here. It's Eller, Acciari, and O'Connor out there as the line. So Mike Sullivan just throwing things into the throwing dice out there and seeing what's going to work. Erik Karlsson changes the angle. He shoots it and it misses the net by an inch. Marcus Pettersson able to turn the puck back over. O'Connor takes it, gives it over to Acciari. His shot from a wide angle goes on Dostal, and it comes out real quickly for Leo Karlsson. Ducks bring it into the offensive zone. Trying to figure something out here. They pick it up to the point. That looks like Brian Dumoulin who takes the puck and sends it over. Leo Karlsson going to work deep against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pens, their in-zone work has been a little bit better tonight. I don't know whether that's they're performing better or that's they're going up against a team that's just not as good. And here's a 2-on-1. Crosby and Rakell, the two guys you want to have on that opportunity. Rakell does get it shuffled towards the net, but that's saved by Dostal. And once again, the stoppage here, maybe an offsides. Not sure what the call is, but Rakell had the puck in front of the net. It looks like it's going to be a penalty. And it looks like a bench minor, potentially too many men on the ice. Mike Sullivan is that's going to be a gif, and that's going to be a meme. Mike Sullivan is distasted with what he's seeing on the ice. That's too many men on the ice. That is Michael Bunting who's going to serve it for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and a power play once again to close out the period for the Anaheim Ducks. Nice chance there, a 2-on-1. Crosby and Rakell, they just got into the close quarters. Crosby had to elevate the pass to get it over the defender, and it wasn't able to settle before Rakell could get possession of the puck. He does a good job of shuffling it towards the net, but Dostal was able to shut it down because there wasn't really a lot on that shot on goal. So again, Anaheim Ducks, third power play opportunity, if I'm not mistaken. Second. I'll have to look at the score sheet here in a second, but I believe it's the third power play opportunity for them. Yeah, it is. Third power play for the Ducks as they try to get something going here. 28 seconds remain. You have Noel Acciari out there with Lars Eller. Jack St. Ivany and Ryan Graves are the defense pairing for you. 18 seconds remaining. The Ducks set things up. That pass is redirected. McTavish takes a shot on goal, and that one's redirected as well. Can Ryan Graves clear the puck? He just can't. A good save made there. Kept in by number 2 for the Ducks. McTavish gets another shot on goal. That one goes wide, and the time ticks out. So after 2 periods of play, Anaheim Ducks maintain their 1-0 lead over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins just unable to figure out the young netminder, Lucas Dostal. Like I mentioned, 1-0 lead. Let's go to the stat pack and the stat report here. Penguins leading in shots on goal, 29-17. Much more even in that second period, though. Block shots, 15-8 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is only the second penalty. So again, Ducks 0 for 1. They had their first power play to end this first period, to start the second period, and now they'll have it to end the second period and start the third period. They're still 0 for 1. We'll see if the Penguins can kill off the remainder of that power play. And then hits 19-10 in favor of the Ducks. Faceoffs 18-17 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And still, Ducks leading in giveaways 15-9 as we head into the second intermission. Christopher Hart throws in here. I actually served with Mike Lang's son in the Navy overseas when we beat Detroit in the Stanley Cup. His name was Tanner. Great friend. That is an awesome story. That is an awesome situation. And I've never had the pleasure of meeting Mike Lang. I've been up on the Mike Lang media level, which is a day that I will remember. And something I hope to do much more often in the future. But awesome that you got to serve overseas. Thank you so much for your service. And obviously, sure, you were very glad to be around Tanner when they won that Stanley Cup. I'm sure you got a bunch of stories from Mike, from Tanner through Mike, which I'm sure I'd love to hear some, but I understand keeping them to yourself because I'm sure some of those are of that as well. Earthquake Jake says Ryan Graves has been better. Yes, he has. I've seen a lot of people saying, earlier today, somebody said, wish we could see some of Sebastian Aho. Maybe worth a shot. Some people have said, at what point do you see Owen Pickering get called up to the NHL level, which I understand the desire to see that as well. But right now, the third pairing is the least of the Penguins' worries. I've said this a lot, so I'm not going to continue to belabor that fact, but the third pairing has been pretty good for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, comparatively, it's always comparatively because the team as a whole has not been good defensively. But the third pairing, specifically Ryan Graves, low bar to clear, but certainly better than what he was last season. Brennan wants to know, when do you think we see Owen Pickering get a stint at the NHL level? I think it's going to take some time. Those guys that have never played at a professional level before, that are just getting to the AHL level this year, I think they're going to be a little bit lower in the call sheet, right? Owen Pickerings, your Tristan Bros, your, Rutger McGroarty, who earned that opportunity off the top. But I think that now that he's down there, he's trying to figure it out. I think they're going to move him down that call sheet a little bit more in favor of guys like a Sam Poulin, who's having a good start to the season down there. Guys like, an Emil Bemstrom, who are having a good start to the season down there. So I think that's what you're going to end up seeing. As far as Pickering, maybe towards the end of the season, we'll have to wait and see how the year progresses. If the Penguins continue to be this bad, there's no reason you don't give Pickering a shot if he's performing well at the AHL level. So far, haven't heard much about Pickering. Haven't heard anything bad about Pickering, which is a good thing. But again, with defensemen, sometimes it just takes them a little bit longer. That's what happened with P.O. Joseph, in my opinion. I think they pushed him a little too quickly. They got him up to the NHL a little too fast and didn't allow him to really properly get his feet underneath him, especially when he got to the NHL level. It seemed like right away, once Dumoulin was gone, or once Dumoulin was struggling, because remember the last couple of years of Brian Dumoulin were a little struggling, they said, all right, let's put P.O. Joseph with Kris Letang. I think it was just a little bit too early. I don't want to see them do the same thing with a guy like Owen Pickering. Other good defensemen, Harrison Brunick. I got to do a check-in on Harrison Brunick in the WHL pretty soon, because the kid was electrifying in the preseason. It was fun to watch. But what I think we're going to do here as we get into the second intermission, 1-0 in favor of the Anaheim Ducks. I don't do it very often, but I'm out of water and I've been talking for an hour and 42 minutes. So we're going to take a quick 2 to 3 minute break. And then when we come back, we'll answer more of your questions. So drop them in the comment section. If you just have comments, if you just have thoughts on the Pittsburgh Penguins, we'll highlight them. We'll have a discussion about them. That's what this is all about. But for right now, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the tip of the Ice-Burgh Watchalong week, game 2 of 2 for Watchalong week. We obviously were live for Tuesday's matchup against the Minnesota Wild versus the Penguins, a 5-3 loss, the 6th straight for the Penguins. Hate to repeat it, but that's the reality that we live in right now. But a nice night for Marc-Andre Fleury and those that remember watching him, those that enjoyed watching him, those that loved watching him win 3 Stanley Cups, which I'm sure everybody in this chat already does. So that game was interesting. You know, the Penguins were in it. They built out a 2-0 lead. I thought they looked decent in that first period. And then, I mean, they did what they've been doing all season long. They gave the lead up. They gave up 4 unanswered, unfortunately, and they just weren't able to climb back in. Penguins are out attempting the Anaheim Ducks, according to Sportsnet Pittsburgh, 57-36. I'd be interested to see how much of those 57 came in the first period, because the Penguins had 18 shots on goal, and it seemed like they were all over the Anaheim Ducks early in that first period. But it's since then, the Ducks, obviously a lot of young talent, able to kind of go out there and go blow for blow when it comes to getting up and down the ice a lot better than the Pittsburgh Penguins are. So they've taken over this second period of play. We'll see which team comes out in the third period. Do we see the first period Penguins, who were all over Lucas Dostal and the Ducks, or do we see the Penguins of the second period, who were going kind of shot for a little bit, and then for the most of the second half of that period, spending a lot of time in their defensive zone? Gary Coral says, can't even think that the Pens aren't going to be able to get younger, faster, and gritty until the big 3 are gone. Well, I mean, they've already started to get younger, because you see guys in the lineup like, you know, Rutger McGroarty early in the season, Valtteri Puustinen getting extended chances. They brought in Blake Lizotte, who's a younger player. Right? They didn't sign a 30-some-year-old player, to take over that role. They bring in a younger guy like Lizotte. And then you look at the AHL, you have a lot of players that, you know, not all of them are going to be able to make it to the NHL level at the same time, and not all of them are going to be hits at the NHL level, but you have a lot of guys that are getting close to being ready, right? Vasily Ponomarev is close to being NHL ready. When will he get his opportunity? Ville Koivunen is close to being NHL ready. Sam Poulin, for Christ's sakes, at some point he has to be NHL ready, right? So, I mean, you have a chance here in the next couple of years to get a lot younger. But if you're looking at the overall age, yeah, certainly. The overall age is not going to go down very much when you have a 38-year-old Evgeni Malkin, a 37-year-old Sidney Crosby and Kris Letang, 34 to 35-year-olds in, you know, Lars Eller, in Erik Karlsson, Nola Chari's getting up there. Kevin Hayes is in his 30s. So understandably, you know, with these guys, you're going to be watching a lot of veteran players, but I think they've done a good job of kind of inserting a lot of youth into the organization. The question is, how long is it going to take those individual players to get their opportunities at the NHL level? How long is it going to take a Harrison Brunick to kind of mature, even though he looked mature beyond his years as an 18-year-old this preseason? How long is it going to take Rutger McGroarty to kind of get his feet underneath him at the at the professional level and be able to get his second opportunity up here with the Pittsburgh Penguins? So I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think they're going to get younger as time goes on. They're only going to start to get younger. Faster comes with that. Grittier, again, you look at the organization down at the AHL, gritty younger players, my mind immediately goes to Jonathan Gruden. And that's a player that I would love to see get an opportunity this season. That's a player that has performed fairly well in his opportunities that he's been given over the past year. And that's a player that fits the mold of a bottom 6 player in a Mike Sullivan system very well. He's physical. He has some offensive upside. And I think that he's a player that deserves an opportunity at some point this season. But again, it's crowded in the forward side of things, right? If the Penguins continue to struggle, you would expect to see a handful of trades being made, whether that's for assets or just trying to figure out, how they can get opportunities for these young guys. I'd love to see an opportunity for, Jonathan Gruden at some point this season. Sarah says Karlsson is still slow. Can he hurry up or pass the puck and let somebody else move the puck up? He's looked to be a step slow. He certainly hasn't looked his best this season. Again, he came in with an upper body injury to start the year. So you wonder if missing training camp, he just wasn't able to get his conditioning intact, but it's been a handful of weeks now. So it is weird because there's times where it's not his conditioning, because he does have those shifts where he likes to just glide around, and even him gliding around is faster than most players. But on that power play especially, I mean, he kind of looked like he was lugging a truck, right? It looked like he was towing some massive 18-wheeler behind him. He looked like he needed to unhitch the wagon a little bit. He needs to be like that for the Pittsburgh Penguins to have success. Shout out to my wife, who is tuned in from San Francisco across the country. Miss you too. Excited to go golfing with you this weekend. I appreciate you jumping on and chiming in. But the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, 29-17 in the shots. You got to get back to what you were in the first period. Not a Duo says 3-1 Ducks by the end of this game. Curious, do you think it's with an empty netter, or do you think that Alex Nedeljkovic gets beaten twice? Because that's an underlying storyline that we should talk about for a couple of minutes. Alex Nedeljkovic coming into this game, overall, I would say it's easy to rank the Penguins goalies to this point of the season. It's Joel Blomqvist, it's Alex Nedeljkovic, and it's Tristan Jarry. But Nedeljkovic has either been really good or really bad this season, right? I mean, a .794 save percentage against high danger opportunities is less than Tristan Jarry. And both of them have had similar ice time, right? Alex Nedeljkovic, this is his fourth game of the season. Tristan Jarry started in 2, played 2 full games, and then played about 10 minutes of the third game before he was benched, and then we haven't seen him since. But .794 against high danger save percentage, you want that to be up over 800 at minimum. Only 4 more chances that he has faced than Tristan Jarry did before he was sent down. So you need Nedeljkovic to be a little bit better. I think he's been that tonight, right? Not tested as much as he has the rest of the season, but still tested a good bit by this Anaheim Ducks team. 17 shots on goal, 16 saves for Nedeljkovic. A handful of nice saves, but at the same time, I don't think that they've had too many grade A chances where he's had to stand on his head, which is different for him this year. And that shows you that if maybe he gets a little bit better defense, he can be the guy that he was late last season. He can keep you in these games. He can keep you competitive. And that's why they brought him back. So I'm not putting his slow start on him entirely, but it is a slow start, and that needs to be recognized. Let's go over to Brennan Martin, who says, does Crosby get a bingo tonight? I'm curious as to what that means to you. Does he get a goal? Like, to me, are you saying, is a bingo a Gordie Howe hat trick? Because I don't think that's likely. It's getting scrappy, but I don't think he's getting into a fight. Do I think he scores a goal? I said at the beginning of this one, I picked him to be my first goal scorer. Now, unfortunately, I didn't expect it to get to the, does he get a goal tonight? I'm picking him as the first goal scorer, so I'll say yes. Liam Cook says, Nola Chari passes it to Cody Glass. Goal to tie the game. I would absolutely love that. Cody Glass has been a workhorse for the Penguins. He's done everything the Pens have asked of him. He was a guy who, coming into this year, I really didn't know what role he would take or what to expect out of Cody Glass. And he's been very good. He's been very good in those opportunities. And certainly as a bottom line guy, I feel like he's exceeded my expectations to this point in the season. Would be nice to see him rewarded by putting the puck in the back of the net, especially in a big moment in this third period. And Nola Chari, he's been a little bit of a facilitator, very much on the offensive end of the ice in the preseason, and he's carried that over pretty well. Not a Duo says, who would I want to replace Mike Sullivan when the time comes? I think a lot of that goes into when is the time and who's available at that time. I think for a short term, if this was a different team, like if they were performing, not a different team, because I still like what the Penguins have on paper, I just think they haven't been able to put it together. If they're able to get this team back into playoff contention and still want to change coaches, which is unlikely, but again, hypothetical scenario, if that were to happen, I don't hate Gerard Gallant. He's a player's coach. I think he would be a good coach to come in here and kind of get on the Penguins a little bit more. I know Mike Sullivan's not a pushover. He's not. But, you start to wonder, are players a little more comfortable with Mike Sullivan? Is he able to push as much as he used to be able to push? I still think that the narrative that he's lost the room, he's lost the ear of the guys in the room and the leaders of the room. I don't buy that because of how outspoken they are about wanting him to remain as their head coach. And that's, your Malkins, your Crosbys, your Letangs, your Karlssons. They are all spoken very, very highly of Mike Sullivan. Part of that's PR fluff. Part of that I truly believe. So I don't think he's lost the room by any means. But I do think that if you are to move on, again, I don't think it happens, I don't think he's on the hot seat this season. If you are to move on, one of the first names I'm circling is Gerard Gallant. Now, I also wouldn't rule out Kirk McDonald, the AHL head coach right now, because that is a Kyle Dubas, Jason Spezza hire. They put him in there for a reason. They probably like him. Obviously they like him to shepherd out the youth movement of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And if that's the case, and all these players are supposed to be part of that next core, part of that next generation, your Broses, your, Rutger McGroartys, your Owen Pickerings, if that's supposed to be your next generation, this is a guy they're getting comfortable with early. And if they find success down there, maybe he's a guy you're looking at, again, when the time comes, as you mentioned, not a duo. Third period is underway between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Anaheim Ducks. Pens look like they're going to kill off the remainder of that power play with about 3 seconds remaining in this one, 2-1, and the Penguins penalty kill is officially 2 for 2. Now that you're back at 5-on-5, let's see if they're able to claw back and tie this one up, get an equalizer past Lucas Dostal. Chad says, what about the coach that was fired from the Kraken? That's Dave Hackstall, who former head coach of the Kraken, former head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Never a bad thing, to bring in somebody who has head coaching experience. But at the same time, I understand the NHL is that boys club. Once you get into the rotation, you're typically going to be one of those first names. And Hackstall was a name that I heard, not that I heard, but that was floated out there by guys like, I believe Frank Saravalli put it out there. I might be mistaken. It's been a long time since we were talking assistant coach hirings for the Penguins. But he was a name that was floated out there for the defensive assistant position in Pittsburgh this summer after he left Seattle. Of course, instead, David Quinn ends up getting the job. But again, wouldn't be surprised to see his name. But again, it's all dependent upon when the time comes. I'm a second behind, so I look down. Penguins tie this one up, and I do believe that was Sidney Crosby. So I'm going to take a second victory lap because not only did I call Alex Killorn, but I called Sidney Crosby. I'm feeling it today. I got to think of a third one, and I got to think of one in favor of the Penguins so they can get this win. But a huge goal early in the third period. They beat Lucas Dostal. They finally figure out the Ducks netminder, and that is a shot from Erik Karlsson at the point that is, I need to find it. I need to find the comment because somebody called it about 5 feet wide, and that's Matt Grzelcyk, not Karlsson. 5 feet wide of the net, and Crosby with an absolutely ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous redirection to get the Penguins on the board. Yes, Chad, ask another question. Ask another question because especially if Sidney Crosby knew that you asked and then he scored right after that, Sidney Crosby would say, you're going to need to ask a question every time I step over the boards. But very good. Very good. Patrick says, Jay Woodcroft. I've heard that in discussion as well when I've been talking to some people. Just again, when I say that, I'm not talking about in the organization, just people that I talk hockey with. Woodcroft's a name that has come up on multiple occasions as well. But I do need to, I think it was Fuzzy Hobbit. Let me scroll back up. A lot of stuff here. Fuzzy Hobbit said Raquel will score first. That was Crosby. That was Crosby that scored first. I do have the receipts in here. So let's go. There was one that said it's going to be about half. It's going to be like 5 feet wide. I'm trying to find it. Stoppage of play helps a lot, so I don't have to just keep looking both ways. I should have saved that one. I should have saved it. Trying to catch up here. It is that was an absolutely ridiculous redirection from Sidney Crosby, though. Back in the game, this is huge. It's massive for the Penguins because if that can be kind of the Kickstarter for them to get this win, this is something that they need to turn the tide sooner or later. Now would be the time. You're going up against a team that doesn't create much on the offensive side of things. You've been able to hold them down with that, and you're one of the better offensive teams. You need to be able to get this second goal. Erik Karlsson does pick up a secondary assist on that one, though. So that's a good sign as well, getting him back on the scoreboard. Who is gonna score first? I can't find it, but somebody threw in there. Connor Wall says it was me. I said 8 feet though. I mean, it could be close. It could be close. I mean, I think it's NHL Edge has the exact distance from the net that shots go. So I'd have to check that after the game. But shout out to Connor Wall. It says 8 feet redirection. But the Penguins, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that the Penguins have tied this one up 1-1 with about 4 minutes taken out of this third period. Nice to see them getting on the board. Nice to see Crosby back on the board specifically. Here it is. Connor Wall said Pens, this was at 7:35. It is now 9 o'clock. Connor Wall said, Pens open the scoring on the power play. It'll be Sid with the tip from 8 feet beside the net. Wasn't on the power play, but everything else was correct. Good call from Connor. Good call from Connor. All right, Pens trying to build off of this, trying to get the lead now, as that's the second line right now. Puustinen, O'Connor, and Eller. I've seen a couple of good shifts from them. I think overall it's been kind of similar to, at least the last two periods, it's been kind of similar to what you saw on Tuesday. Top line's producing a lot of the offense. Second, third, fourth line has had maybe one good shift or two good shifts, but they need a little bit more. It'd be great if they could get a goal from this line right here, maybe Puustinen in back-to-back games. Earthquake Jake says, I would bet that our record versus the Ducks in the past years is around even. Let's see. That's something we can look up real quick as they take a stoppage of play. Head to head. All righty. Last year, they split the series. The 2 years prior to that, the Penguins won both games. Split the series 2 years prior to that. The Ducks swept in 2017-18. So it's leading towards the Penguins, but much closer than you would expect against an Anaheim Ducks team that has been out of the race for a while. Pens pushing hard here. What line is out there on the ice? This is the fourth line with Beauvillier, Bunting, and Cody Glass. So that's a different lineup there. Pettersson swinging into the zone. He gets tripped up, and it's not called by the official. But a good play there from Pettersson to create an opportunity. Pens depth line. I'm not even going to try to number lines anymore because Mike Sullivan keeps throwing them in a blender. But one of their depth lines, Beauvillier, Bunting, and Cody Glass, are out there creating a little bit, keeping the offensive zone pressure going. You love to see it. Alex Killorn does collect the puck. He sends it up and out of the zone, but he sends it right to Erik Karlsson. Pens immediately right back in. This is what you want to see. Start stacking shifts. Rickard Rakell tries to take possession of the puck. He has been flying all night tonight. Crosby sends it over to Grzelcyk. Grzelcyk shot once again. That is a little bit of trouble for Lucas Dostal, but he does send it up and out of play for the stoppage. Logan has a scouting report on Tristan Jarry. He said, saw him in person Saturday with the baby Pens. He still seemed unconfident in his ability, but man, the youngsters are fun and fast to watch. The future looks brighter than it was last year. I like that. And honestly, you don't expect him to go down there, as far as specifically talking about Tristan Jarry. You don't expect him to go down there and automatically be, his fully confident self. He's going down there to find it. So I think this is something where you're going to see it progress, or at the very least, you're hoping to see it progress. He got a win on Saturday. He got a win on Wednesday. You're hoping that he keeps going. He keeps getting wins. It'd be nice if he could toss a shutout in there. But again, what you're looking for is that battle, that compete, that confidence to start growing game after game. That way, when he comes back up, he's ready to go. He's ready to be what he was at his best, which he hasn't been in a while. I understand that. That's what the Pens are trying to get out of him. They're trying to pull every last bit of, performance out of Tristan Jarry, because if not, they're in a very bad situation, right? He has 3 years left on his contract at $5 million. Goaltenders are hard to move in general. So I think that is going to be really imperative for the Penguins to try to figure out Tristan Jarry, because a lot of people, again, I think I've said this already on tonight's live stream, but we're over 2 hours into this one. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. But a lot of people say, hey, well, I'd rather you trade him. You can't trade him when he's performing this badly. Nice to see Jeffrey with a G jumping in here. Our resident Dubas hater says, who signed him for 5 years? And that would be Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas. Jeffrey is, I feel like a Dubas hater, which is why he's here, but also a Maple Leafs fan. So he's kind of scorned, kind of hurt by what Dubas did to that organization. So happy to see it happen to a different one, I'm sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But how was McGroarty, is what Jeffrey asked. That's a question more for Logan. McGroarty gets his first assist of his career yesterday in the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins game. So that's nice. That's nice. Penguins getting back to it. 13:40 remaining in this one. 37-16, the Pens are out shooting the Anaheim Ducks. Certainly a sight that we have not seen to this point in the season. Matt Grzelcyk takes the puck. He backhands it over to Evgeni Malkin. And again, Malkin has just been a touch off in this game. He was great the previous two, even though he didn't get on the score sheet last time, and he just absolutely body checked a referee behind the net. Evgeni Malkin still throwing shoulders. Let's see if he can do that to a Ducks player when they're carrying the puck instead next time. Malkin dishes it off to Letang. Letang looking for a redirection. The puck is just sitting in the crease. Rickard Rakell just a hair too late to get that rebound, and it comes out of the zone, unfortunately. Jeffrey does keep me correct, says, yes, I am a Leafs fan. And listen, I have no ill will towards the Leafs. I like the Leafs. I hate what happens to them every year in the playoffs. Not going to say I don't laugh about it, because everybody laughs about it. But I do like the Leafs. I like their core. I like Matthews. And specifically, I really like William Nylander. Have a lot of fun watching him. He says, I don't hate Dubas. He's a nice guy. He's a terrific guy. So was Jim Rutherford, but that doesn't mean Jim Rutherford didn't make a lot of mistakes at the tail end of his career in Pittsburgh. So I understand why you'd be a little upset. It's fair. Chrissy says, yeah, Dubas should have signed Vasilevsky for 8 years, $3 million. You know what? He probably should have. He probably should have. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people also forget. They say, man, that contract, how could you have ever signed that contract? Hindsight is 2020. You look at the free agent class that year, the fact that the Penguins needed a starting goaltender, and he was one of the only ones available in the free agent market. The trade market was not hot that offseason like it was this offseason, when you saw guys like Markstrom go to new teams, guys like Allmark go to new teams. That wasn't available 2 years ago. So, you had the best player available. You signed him to a contract that you could bear, which was 5 by 5. And now it looks awful because he fell off a cliff. But I don't think anybody, and if they say they saw it coming, they're lying to you. Nobody saw him falling off to the level of needing an AHL conditioning stint to get him to just play at a professional level. So hindsight is 2020. I don't wholeheartedly blame Dubas for that one. And I also don't wholeheartedly blame him for the Ryan Graves one either, because same situation. Penguins needed a top 4 defenseman on the left side. Graves was the best available by consensus across the board. And it didn't work. It didn't fit. And I will always say this. I feel like the Graves move might have been made before they were certain that the Karlsson trade was going to happen. So, because Graves doesn't fit well with Karlsson on a pairing. Graves doesn't fit well with Letang on a pairing. And I don't think you paid him that much to be a third pairing defenseman. So I think part of that was timing, and it just didn't time out perfectly. And they were hoping, hey, it doesn't matter. Graves is still going to be good, and Karlsson's going to be great. Well, Graves had his worst season as a professional, and Karlsson took a step back. So all things just didn't pan out. But you can see the forest through the trees when you put yourself back into the situation that Kyle Dubas was in his first year as Penguins general manager. Earthquake Jake says most disliked team. Mine is the Capitals. There's really no teams I truly dislike at this stage. You grow up and you say, oh, anti-Ovi, anti-Capitals, anti-Rangers, anti-Flyers. At this point, I don't really have any malice towards any teams. I would say the most animosity is the Flyers, and that's the team I hate seeing the Penguins lose to the most. It's not that I dislike them. I just dislike anytime they beat the Penguins. That one just rubs me the wrong way anytime I see it. As far as what team do I think is the most disliked universally across the league, let me know your opinion in the comment section. I think it's the Blackhawks. I'm almost certain it's the Chicago Blackhawks. Here comes Sidney Crosby with an opportunity. He dekes in, and that one is stopped by Dostal. Crosby's looking a little bit more like himself, and that is a great sign for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 3 assists in the last game, has a goal in this one, and he's certainly looking much more Crosby-esque, especially when you see him doing that to Olin Zellweger of the Anaheim Ducks. Logan with our update here on Rucker McGroarty says, McGroarty looked pretty good, still seems to be adjusting, but looks to be a gritty, skilled game. Not a pro scout, though. I mean, that's what a lot of scouts call him. A guy that likes to play gritty, guy that likes to play, with his size, because he's a big kid for only being 20 years old. But you're 100% correct. He's played less than a dozen professional hockey games, and it takes a minute to adjust from the college style to professional, whether that's AHL or NHL or ECHL. There's an adjustment that needs to be made. Earthquake Jake says Pens are probably the most liked hockey team. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the most liked hockey team, also most universally disliked, you could probably throw Vegas in there as well. I don't know if there's a most universally liked hockey team. Does anybody, people are starting to hate the Panthers. I personally don't. I think a lot of people like the Panthers because they're fun to watch, and they're a team that for the longest time didn't really have a true rival outside of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and didn't really have any reason for people to dislike them. Now, you get a Kachuk. That's what happens. That's what happens. Let's go over to Mac Brunson, who's checking in. Appreciate you coming back, Mac. Says, don't worry, Nick. I've won the last 25 cups in franchise mode with Crosby as a coach. That's beautiful. I love that. Edgar Snyder, hit of the game is none other than Noel Acciari, the team leader in hits. Brennan echoes the sentiment we talked about earlier. They were the right moves at the right time, just didn't work out. Jeffrey, not surprised. The Leafs fan does not like the Canadians and their fans. That's fair. Hey, listen, respect the rivalry. I respect the rivalry. It's like Edmonton fans probably hate, I don't know why I'm saying probably, Edmonton fans hate Calgary fans. Why? Battle of Alberta. It's phenomenal. They hate each other. But it makes sense that you would dislike Canadiens fans. Earthquake Jake says Oilers probably have the largest fan base. That one, you might be right on that one. Now, I feel like Toronto has a larger fan base than the Edmonton Oilers, but I feel like it's probably pretty close between those two. Minnesota's a sneaky team. They have a lot of people backing them as well. Patrick, it's the Leafs. Max says, I personally hate Vegas the most because of Fleury leaving. It's not as much Vegas as it is our mistake. Second is Seattle because I live near there and everything about the people in that city sucks. Never been to Seattle. I'd like to visit Seattle. You're not doing, you're not making me want to visit it anymore, but I do want to visit Seattle, and I definitely want to go to a game there because that arena looks cool. And like I mentioned earlier, top 5 jersey in the NHL. Back to the action here a little bit. 1-1 is the score. And now that I know that my score bug and the site that I'm using for this scoreboard is a little bit ahead, I'm going to try to not look at it. But Christopher says largest fan base is the Blackhawks. Maybe. Again, those original 6 franchises are hard to beat. Non-original 6, probably going to be the Oilers. Oilers or Minnesota, I would have to imagine. But 9:30 remaining in this third period. The Penguins, I mean, they are absolutely shelling Lucas Dostal. This is looking a lot like the Pens of the first period, which is great to see. They got a little bit more of a jump in their step after tying the game. Shout out to the captain, Crosby. But right now it's Valtteri Puustinen taking the puck. They're looking for another redirection. They just do not connect. That was Matt Grzelcyk again, it looks like. No, that was Marcus Pettersson, who's kind of come into his own as an offensive defenseman a little bit in the last 2 years. Drew O'Connor has some time behind Dostal. He takes it, sends it up to Karlsson, who looks for another redirection. Looked like Puustinen got a piece of that, just went wide of the net and then stayed behind that net there. So a couple of, attempts at another redirection past Lucas Dostal, really emphasizing that right now from the point, shooting it wide and trying to get that redirection back in. Gary Coral says the Penguins are going to score a shorty and win tonight. That'd be fun. I'd prefer them not to take another penalty. But at the same time, when your penalty kill is clicking as well as it has, it's not the worst thing in the world. But again, still, let's not try to do that. Chad has a question we're going to get to here. We're going to wait it out for a minute and watch a couple minutes of this game. See what happens here as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. A tie game, Anaheim, Pittsburgh, 1-1. Feeling very similar to what it was last year, but a potential 2-on-1 here. It looks like Beauvillier comes in, shoots it. Shoulder save made there. Anthony Beauvillier had a quick 2-on-1. He decided to do what he likes to do. He's a shot merchant. He goes in and he gets the shot on goal. A nice save made there by Dostal. A nice opportunity for a depth line. You'll love to see it. You love to see it. Let's go to that question from Chad in a second here after we watch this replay. Dostal doesn't make the save. That is a crossbar shot from Anthony Beauvillier, one of the downfalls of watching the game on mute, but obviously can't have it on because, again, would get my stream taken down. But let's go over to Chad's question here as he asks, as the play begins, if there's a trade to happen, what position would it be for? I don't think the Penguins are going to be just outwardly acquiring players to help right now. If anything, I think if they're going to have a trade, it's going to either be an equal value change of scenery trade, or more than likely, we're going to trade one of our NHL guys for picks and prospects. And I think if it's going to be at any position, it's going to be at the center ice position. I like what I've seen from Lars Eller to start this season. If you're going to compete for a playoff spot, Lars Eller is a guy that you're going to want to have on your team. And for that reason, he's a guy that's going to have a lot of trade value attached to him if the Penguins continue to be at the bottom of the league. Also, they have center options, especially with the return now of Blake Lizotte. He's a center. Achari can always shift to center. Cody Glass has showed that he should probably stick at the NHL level. He's a center. That's one of the positions that they had at a very good advantage. It looks like the puck went up and hit a camera before coming back into play. So they're not going to call that one, or they're going to stop the play on a out of play stoppage. What are they negotiating here? Is this going to be? There's no way you can call. I mean, there's no way you can tell that would have gone out of play without hitting the glass. So I don't think they're going to call a delay of game here. But yeah, I would think if it's going to be a position, it's going to be center. And of the centers right now, the one of the most interest and the most intrigue for other teams is likely Lars Eller, to answer your question, Chad. Yeah, this is a very interesting conversation, by the way, of what they're doing. They're just debating on where to put the face-off. Marcus Pettersson is saying it should be in the zone because they were coming out of the zone when they shot it up and against that. And I can see you have a point there if you're Pettersson. I'm not sure why that's face-off came out of the zone. But either way, the Penguins get it back in really quickly. Michael Bunting gets another shot on goal. That's what he's been focusing on tonight. Every time he touches the puck, and another shot on goal as he turns around. I don't know if he's getting credit for these, but both of those look like they were on. So the Penguins should be up to 43 shots at this moment in time. But Michael Bunting is putting a heck of a lot of shots. So if you had the over on shot attempts or shots on goal for Michael Bunting, I would imagine that you've probably hit it. Tempers flaring there. Michael Bunting and Noel Acciari doing what they do best, getting under people's skin. Bunting right now leads or is tied for the lead with for the Penguins with 5 shots on goal. Sidney Crosby also has 5, and Crosby's obviously put that goal in the back of the net, but 5 shots on goal for Michael Bunting tonight. He has been throwing everything he possibly can at the net for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's what you want to see. That's when Bunting's at his best, when he's doing stuff like that. After the whistle, getting a little chippy, trying to get his team on the power play. That's what you want from Bunting. If he's not contributing on the score sheet, which that needs to be the next part, you need to see him engaged, post-whistle, stuff like that. Quick opportunity for Leo Karlsson. Nice redirection and a good job from Alex Nedeljkovic to stay awake down there. He hasn't been put to work a lot here in this third period, but that was a very dangerous opportunity coming in from Leo Karlsson, because that shot was just destined and tattooed for that upper corner of the net. Good job by Nedeljkovic to track it and grab it in his glove. Again, one of his better or best performances of the season to this point in his 4th appearance. Lars Eller gets the defensive zone faceoff win and gets it back to Ryan Graves. Graves lugs the puck out to center ice, reaches the red line, turns around, and tries to send it over to his forward core, but it's turned over. Ryan Graves comes back, breaks up the odd man rush, and just like that, the Penguins come out the other way. Again, leads to the fact that Ryan Graves has been much better this season. That puck is sent down deep by Drew O'Connor. O'Connor, Eller, and Noel Acciari on the ice right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have it down low, trying to figure it out. Radko Gudas mucking it up as he tends to do. Eller gets it, tries to find some space, throws it in front of the net. They try to do the same exact thing that they saw Leo Karlsson do, but Noel Acciari redirects it just wide of the net. Letang's shot goes wide, and then Acciari picks up the rebound, sends it on, and that is smothered by Lucas Dostal. A lot of post-whistle scrums here as we get deeper and deeper into this game, a 1-1 tie, as we are now in the final 5 minutes of this one. A 1-1 game that the Pittsburgh Penguins desperately need. They've lost 6 straight going into this one. And this is, I guess, the last chance that we'll have to say it. So we want to remind everybody that for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are doing a t-shirt. We're proud to partner with the Rangers Ed podcast and Little Ed's Workshop to raise money for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Head on over to the link in our description below to check out the men's and women's t-shirts, as well as their as a hoodie selection. 100% of the profits will be donated directly to breast cancer research. So 5 minutes remaining in this one. Penguins won, Ducks won. Eerily similar, and I hate to say this, eerily similar to last year when the Ducks came to visit the Penguins early in the season. If the Pens get a 5-on-3 this time, a full 2-minute 5-on-3 this time, I would say the power play is in a much better position to actually end it and not give up that goal to Mason McTavish with only seconds remaining in the game. But eerily similar, low-scoring game, tight checking game, pretty good goaltending on both sides of the puck. And we'll see, if either of these teams are able to get the go-ahead goal late, or if they're actually able to make it to the overtime period in this one. With 5 minutes to go, we're going to go to Chrissy, who says, "Is this a safe space to admit that while I get why Jake Gensel trade happened, I still miss him sometimes?" I mean, I haven't paid too much attention to what Jake Gensel's done in Tampa Bay. I'm assuming it's good because Jake Gensel is just good in general, and playing with those players, I guarantee you he's not having a bad season. What's Gensel doing down there? 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in 10 games. Yeah, Jake Gensel, still good at hockey. Who would have thought? Yes, I would prefer to have Jake Gensel on this team versus not having him on this team, but the trade made sense. You weren't going to re-sign him. They tried all season long to have those conversations. You figured out that, hey, he's not coming back. You can't lose him for nothing. And he got back a pretty good return, right? Michael Bunting was great last season. You're hoping he's great again this season. But then you also add on the fact that you bring in Vasily Ponomarev, who's been good since coming to the organization. Ville Koivunen, who's been good since coming to the organization. And a draft pick that, while some people were mad they didn't get it first, they got Harrison Brunick. Pretty sure everybody's excited about Harrison Brunick. So yes, Chrissy, This is a safe space. And Earthquake Jake, appreciate you keeping me straight. Jake is doing good, which we would have to imagine that was going to be the case regardless. 5:15 remaining in this one. Pens trying to get out in front, trying to get back on the winning track, trying to end this losing streak. And that is a pretty dangerous opportunity there for, guess who? He is the boogeyman. He is Beetlejuice for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. And that is Alex Killorn. Cutter Gauthier, I completely forgot was on this team until just now. 61 and 91. That's why it feels like Leo Karlsson's been on the ice the entire game, because I keep thinking that Cutter Gauthier is Leo Karlsson. Well, there's another good player that they have, but hasn't done much in this one, fortunately, for the Pens. Christopher Hart says, of course, we get goalied when our offense wakes up. I mean, at least it's not by somebody who hasn't done it before, right? Lucas Dostal had a 940 plus save percentage coming into this one. So he's been goaling a bunch of people. He just kept it going against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But hey, the good thing is their defense has been better. Their possession has been much better this game, and they're still tied at 1-1 in the final 5 minutes. Blues Nation, we'll get to your question here at the next stoppage. And then if you have any other questions for anybody else tuned in, let me know. Alex Killorn coming in here, looking to be a thorn in the Penguins' side once again. Takes it all the way around the ice, but turns the puck over. Oh, the Penguins almost had an odd man rush, and instead it's an opportunity here for Zegras. He shoots it, no score. Save made again from Alex Nedeljkovic, the best that we have seen all game. The Penguins almost had an odd man rush. It looked like it was Erik Karlsson that might have tried to get that puck up. Instead, it was a turnover, a great opportunity for Trevor Zegras, and a second opportunity for potentially Cutter Gauthier. Again, numbers got a little mixed up there, but two great opportunities. Alex Nedeljkovic flailing around somehow keeps the puck out and keeps the Penguins even at 1 apiece. That's going to be a sequence that you're going to need to remember if the Penguins come back and get the 2 points in this one. Sidney Crosby's line comes out to respond, looking to build off the momentum of that tremendous save by Alex Nedeljkovic. Malkin carries the puck around, slowly weighs his options, looking for somebody, looking, takes a slap shot. That's saved by Dostal. Raquel was in front, not able to quite take away the eyes of the Ducks netminder. But what an amazing sequence. That was not Karlsson. Don't get on him. That was Pettersson. The puck was brought down. Huge save by Nedeljkovic. Pettersson comes back and helps keep it out of the net. Does keep it, not helps. He does keep it out of the net. And then it's Cutter Gauthier who tries to put the puck back in. Nedeljkovic's stick is bouncing around, banks off of that, banks off of his spinal cord, and harmlessly, fortunately, harmlessly goes behind the net instead of in the net. Crazy sequence for the Penguins that gives them life here in the final 5 minutes of this one. Lars Eller line is out there now. They've been fairly good to start this one. A misplay by Brian Dumoulin takes it back into his own zone. Dumoulin now turns the puck over to Lars Eller, who tries to get it past Dumoulin once again. 2 Ducks, 1 Penguin. Sounds like a video I should not look up on the internet. Chris Letang takes the puck. He gives it over to Drew O'Connor. O'Connor turns the puck back over. Looks like Troy Terry might have the puck on his stick now. He takes it into the offensive zone. It's a 3-on-3. Good play by Ryan Graves, Penguins defenseman. Shuts that one down. Puck comes back out to neutral zone. Under 3 to go in this one. Pens throw Michael Bunting out there because he's just been getting shots on net. Maybe he's the one that breaks through in this game. Bunting forces the turnover at center ice and turns them back in the other direction. Puck is sent down into the Penguin zone, which is taken by Alex Nedeljkovic. I don't know. Is that the Cody Rhodes? You know, like, whoa. I don't know. Maybe it is. If it is, Cody Rhodes is a Pens fan. Wouldn't expect somebody that was born and raised in Marietta, Georgia to be a Pens fan, but love Cody Rhodes joining the stream. Pens down into the final 120 seconds of this one. Erik Karlsson sends it over to Malkin. Malkin dekes through the zone. Dips his shoulder. Keeps the puck away from his old buddy Dumoulin. Sends it back to Marcus Pettersson, that shot is redirected by Crosby on net, but just couldn't get it to go. This is bad news for the Penguins. Cutter Gauthier comes in, and that one is stoned by Alex Nedeljkovic. 1.5 minutes to go. Cutter Gauthier had the game on his stick, and Nedeljkovic says no, shutting down the 5-hole. Kris Letang, he turns the puck over. Gauthier gets it. Letang comes back and throws a stiff shoulder into him. Gauthier definitely doesn't feel good after that one. Here comes Drew O'Connor. It's been a minute for him. Maybe he gets the goal to end this game. We'll have to wait and see. That second line getting double shifted here a little bit. Ducks come in the zone. Zegras shoots it. That's saved by Alex Nedeljkovic. Well, snuffed out is what I was trying to go for there. But saved by Alex Nedeljkovic. Now I think it's fair to say, I'm not going to say that actually. Excuse me. But yeah, Dostal, that's why you get out at the top of your crease. A great opportunity, but he was able to kind of cut off the angle before it got to Crosby, who had the positioning. Gauthier accepted that puck on the breakaway at the dots, so he maybe didn't have enough time, but either way, a good job, stellar job by Alex Nedeljkovic over the past several minutes to keep the Pittsburgh Penguins in this one. And also, you got to give an assist to Marcus Pettersson, who's kind of made up for his mistake on the turnover by keeping that puck out of the net. Here come the Ducks. Pens putting one of their depth lines out there. Michael Bunting is out there again with a different line. So Mike Sullivan liking what he's seeing out of Michael Bunting in this one. He's out there now with Cody Glass and Nola Chari in the final minute of play. Puck is redirected up and out of play. 32.8 seconds remaining. Brandon Rickner says, if Cutter Gauthier would have scored that goal, my year is absolutely ruined. Chrissy says, I completely forgot that Gauthier is on the Ducks now as well. I mean, yeah, it was a very similar situation to Rutger McGroarty and the Penguins and the Jets with Cutter Gauthier and the Flyers and the Ducks. Very, very, very similar situation because you think of who they traded. It was Jamie Drysdale, very good young prospect. Penguins trade Braden Yeager, another good young prospect. Crazy how similar those situations were. Pens with 24 seconds left. At this point, bare minimum, you need to get the pity point. But here come the Ducks with one last gasp. A nice move inside out, an opportunity shot saved again by Alex Nedeljkovic. He is the top star in this one to this point in the game for the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially in this final five. Wasn't tested much to begin the third period, but he has been tested heavily at the end of this third period, and he has been up for the challenge. What a performance from Alex Nedeljkovic. Pittsburgh Hornets wants to ask, if this goes to OT, what lines do you expect to see? I expect they'll split. I would think they would split Malkin and Crosby up if you get into overtime. I would expect starting it would be Crosby, Raquel, and Letang, and then you'd have Malkin. Trying to think. Malkin with Karlsson, and I'd say Bunting. I think Sullivan likes what Bunting's done to this point. So, Pens, for the first time in a handful of games, they're on the board. They have a standings point, end of regulation. We're going into overtime. But while we're going into overtime, there was a question I wanted to answer up top. Because shout out to Blues Nation, who's jumped in here, says, appreciate the stream, Nick. When's the next stream week? That I don't know. It's all dependent upon schedule. Obviously, I do work for, covering the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So with their season kind of getting wacky, they're going to have games in 4 days and stuff like that. Just keep your eyes peeled to Tip of the Ice-Burgh on YouTube, and we will announce when it's going to happen. We're not just going to pop up with a watch along. We might actually, if it's last second and have some time, might do it. But these are something that takes a lot of energy. So it doesn't happen very often. This is the third one of the season. We'll probably try to do 1 or 2 a month. So expect one in the month of November at some point. But appreciate you joining a Blues Nation. And I'm hoping, your Chelsea Blues go out there and climb up the table in the EPL. Let's see what else we got in the in the chat here as we head to overtime. Earthquake Jake says Eller in overtime. And honestly, let's do that. We did who do you predict to score the first goal of the game? Let's do a little Bucci overtime challenge in here. Who do you expect to score? And let's just go with the Pittsburgh Penguins because we want to see a Penguins win. I'm going to give this one to Crosby. Has the lone overtime goal of the year for the Pens. They're 1-1 in extra time, 1-0 in overtime, 0-1 in the shootout. Crosby has a goal already. I'm going to say in this overtime, Earthquake Jake started this. He says Lars Eller. I'm going to say it goes to Erik Karlsson. I'm going to say it goes to Erik Karlsson. Jeffrey says something people don't talk about with the Penguins is passing. They look disconnected even with simple passes at times. 100%. I agree with you. I think there's times that you look at them and you're like, come on, guys. Like, we got to get this together. It is Crosby, Raquel, and Karlsson. So I had the defenseman wrong to start overtime. Crosby's still taping his stick at the center ice dot. Pittsburgh Hornet says Bunting. Patrick says DOC. Christopher Hart is on the same page as me and says Karlsson. Toxic Friend says Erik Karlsson. We got Liam Cook saying Malkin. Pittsburgh Hornet says Bunting. Batty bat into the net. Baseball season ended last night, but it doesn't mean we can't get a baseball goal in this one. Karlsson takes it, and we start the overtime. Connor says, I think the captain nets the second. So let's get this started. 4:40 remaining in the overtime period. Erik Karlsson has it behind the net. Nobody pressuring him. Pens get a change. Evgeni Malkin comes out. He goes directly behind the net. Malkin is out there with Drew O'Connor. So that's the second line. Erik Karlsson off the ice. Here comes Christopher Letang. So it's Letang, Malkin, and O'Connor as the second shift. Excuse me, that's Matt Grzelcyk instead of Letang. Interesting decision-making there. Puck skips over Malkin's stick and out of danger. Chad says Sid. Guitar Guru says Raquel. And the Pens are back in the zone. Evgeni Malkin takes it, has some space, backhander shot. Dostal the save, and the Ducks get possession of the puck. And this time, I know that's Leo Karlsson. Brandon Rickner, what are we doing? Says Cutter Gauthier. What are we doing? I said keep it to Pens. We're keeping the vibes high here. If Cutter scores, you know who to blame. Just saying that. Everybody in the stream, all 61 of you, appreciate you for joining. But if Cutter Gauthier scores, we're going to blame that one on Brandon. Gregorio, says O'Connor. I'm keeping one eye on the screen and one eye on the game here. Cam Fowler has the puck. It's another name. You just keep going. He's still in the league, and he's still doing it at a pretty decent level, too. Here comes Cutter Gauthier. Has the opportunity, shuffles it onto the net. That one stopped by Alex Nedeljkovic. Brandon, you lucked out on that one. Pens trying to gain possession of the puck. They're out-manning them 3-2 in the zone, but puck is not moving around at all. A good job by the Ducks player to get that out. Opportunity coming in for number 34. That is McTavish, I believe. But he is turned aside by Lars Eller. Looks like Eller, Glass, and somebody else out there. Lars Eller knocks the guy down, able to take the puck away. Pens are trying to get a change in the meantime as they take the puck in. It's Cody Glass. Glass drops it off for Letang. Letang has some space, sends it over to Crosby, who gets down on the patented one knee, but he's not able to finish. A good job there. Opportunity Crosby. He's in. He's in the net. He shoots. He scores! The captain, Sidney Crosby, puts an end to the losing streak. And where is it? Where is it? Connor Wall, for the second time tonight, calls the game winner, calls the goal for the captain, Sidney Crosby, who's starting to heat up. The Penguins have won, and in the wise words of the legend, Elvis has just left the building. Shout out to Sidney Crosby. Shout out to Cody Glass. We talked about him continuing to build and build and build and make the small plays. That's a big play from Cody Glass. Stopping that Ducks defender, forcing the turnover, setting up Sidney Crosby for his 22nd career overtime goal, his second of the season. Penguins are off the schneid. Connor Wall, sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm thinking of Cody Glass. Connor Wall is 2 for 2. Connor Wall is, it's tough. Crosby, he put he put Dostal in a blender there. Gets the puck in tight, and Dostal was just not ready for that. He was off balance, and Crosby absolutely puts him in the shake machine and puts it in the back of the net. Huge goal for Crosby. Huge moment for the Penguins. They're back on the winning track. Chrissy says, aren't they 2 for 2 in overtime now? That feels strange. They are, Fuzzy Hobbit got it right. Says 2-1. 2-1. Fuzzy Hobbit was right on that one. I said, really the Pens are giving up a lot of goals. Fuzzy Hobbit had it right all the time. But Chrissy, going back to you, says, aren't they 2 for 2 in overtime now? They're 2-0 in overtime, 0-1 in the shootout. So in 3-on-3, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. The Pens are better. Toby Yoder says, maybe they ought to play Renegade more. See, I don't have the audio. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me know that. They played Renegade. They played Sticks. It didn't work for the Steelers on Monday Night Football, but it works for the Penguins on Thursday Night Hockey. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let's do a 3 stars. I haven't done a 3 stars on any of these, but I also want to get some of these reactions here because you guys lit up the chat when Sidney Crosby put an end to this one. Pittsburgh Hornet says 87 with an exclamation point. We got a couple of woos, feeling like Ric Flair. Woo! Getting the win on that one. Jeffrey says, man, that Crosby is so good. Yeah, I agree. Earthquake Jake says, go Penguins, go. Sidney from Fuzzy Hobbit. Blues Nation, who's been here all night long, says, let's go. A lot of let's go from Chrissy. Sid the Kid getting his bucket full of candy. Good call on Pittsburgh Hornets. That is a great comment there. So it's been great. It's been phenomenal. Brennan says, number 1, Sid. Number 2, Ned. Number 3 is going to be a tough one. I could give it to Rickard Rakell. He looked really good for a lot of this game. But I'm going to give it to the guy who set up the guy in overtime, Cody Glass. He continues to be impressive. And we talked about it right off the bat when I threw these lines up here. I said Cody Glass, third line with Michael Bunting, who had 5 shots on goal. He had a good night as well. Nola Chari, who had, the hit of the game. That's nice as well. But Cody Glass getting an opportunity up there in overtime, takes advantage, causes the turnover, and gets it to one of the best players in the history of the game, Sidney Crosby, to end it. So there you go. Number 1 star is Sid. Number 2 is Alex Nedeljkovic. And that is, Sid scored both goals in this one, including an overtime winner. That is neck and neck because they don't get to overtime if not for Alex Nedeljkovic's heroics. Alex Nedeljkovic, best game of the season so far, 2nd star of the game. 1st star or 3rd star goes to, as Brennan says, Cody Glass, who's looking great. Whew. Catching my breath real quick. Nice to do one of these, and they actually win the hockey game. First time I did it was opening night, 6-0 loss. Second time I did it was Tuesday for the Fleury game, 5-3 loss. This time, 2-1 win. Now I know that I can do this without scrutiny of being the jinx. But as Earthquake Jake says, I already had that one up. Earthquake Jake says, happy Halloween to all. A good win and a good night. A little bit of Edward R. Murrow vibes there from Earthquake Jake. But that's going to do it for this episode of Tip of the Ice-Burgh live, a watch-along edition, 2 hours, 45 minutes, 54 seconds. And who cares about that? 2 points for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Remember, you can find us on YouTube right here at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, tell all your friends, and we'll let you know when the next watch-along is. I don't know if I'll do a watch-along week. 2 in the same week is tough, especially on Tuesdays. I have 4 or 5 podcast recordings, so my voice is gone by then. Right now, it's already cracking, but we will let you know when we do our next watch-along, and maybe we will do another watch-along week. This week we did it because of Fleury and Halloween. Maybe there's going to be another week where it lines up like this, but appreciate everybody for tuning into this one. Chrissy is one of the MVPs of this stream. Connor, for calling everything that happened, is an MVP of this stream as well. Fuzzy Hobbit for calling the final score before the game. He's an MVP of this stream. And also, I want to give a little bit of love. give a little bit of love to Jeffrey in here. Nice, good conversation, nice back and forth. I love the tete-a-tete that we had in the middle of this one as well. But that's going to do it for this one. I keep belaboring the fact because I'm juiced up, I'm amped up. Pens are back on the winning side of things, and that's a great way to close out this night. It was a great day for hockey, and Elvis, as Mike Lang always says, has just left the building. We'll see you guys next time.